Welcome to the Hunter's Advantage podcast, where a group of budget-minded hunters scour the woods for whitetail bucks and whatever other big game is in season. Tune in each week to hear the hilarious public and private land hunting stories and mistake-filled lessons learned. We believe that every hunt brings us closer to God and that we exist to share the good news. And now, your hosts, Christian Babcock and Jake Gaylord.
Listen, guys, we wouldn't be able to do the podcast if it wasn't for you all. So we just want to say that you guys are greatly appreciated, and thank you for following along each week.
And speaking of support, we are partnered with Out on a Limb Manufacturing, and I can tell you from firsthand experience, Matt and Chase are great, down-to-earth guys, and they make some of the best saddle hunting products out there. Whether you're looking for a set of climbing sticks or a mobile, lightweight, hang-on tree stand, or maybe you're even a one-sticker.
You mean tree Pilates?
Yes, tree Pilates. If you've been to the grocery store or the gas station lately, you know that Uncle Joe is doing his absolute worst to take all your money. That's why we need hunting gear that lasts year after year. And trust me, I've been rocking the same Out on a Limb Shakar climbing sticks for 4 years and the Ridge Runner 2.0 saddle hunting platform for a few years as well. This gear is built to last.
We can confidently say that Out on a Limb is the best bang for your buck.
And it's the best gear if you want to deflate a big old buck.
Ooh. Make sure you use code HNTA15 at outonalimbmfg.com for 15% off anything on their website.
So if you can show them the same support that you guys show us, please go to outonalimbmfg.com and use code HNTA15 for 15% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hunter's Advantage podcast, coming to you live from a middle of nowhere highway in New Mexico, but headed back a little bit heavier than we came.
Yeah, just give the listeners paint a little picture. Right now we're driving down this road and we see, I don't know, some shrubby stuff, but in the distance we see mountains on mountains.
Mountains in every direction.
It looks like you're just in a big cereal bowl. You know what I mean?
Yeah. To think we were up on some of those.
Ew.
Last
Don't
week.
even talk about that. We were talking about it earlier. It's like if we had to get up one more day and do that, I mean, we would do it, but it's still like, ew.
Wouldn't be happy about
Things
it.
feel gross, but we're all showered and
I feel like $1 million.
Headed back to Oklahoma.
Yeah. So if you guys listened to the last podcast we did, we were kind of recapping our Nebraska deer trip and then also talking about our upcoming elk hunt, which was funny because there was like a bunch of, what would you shoot? How do you think this is going to go? And it's kind of it's fun to talk about, but not anything you just don't know until you show up.
Yeah, that is true. Like, oh, what's your expectations? It's like, what I can get in front of? Now it's like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we were up in northern New Mexico since Sunday, and it's Friday today, so I guess we did 6 days up here, and we had a heck of a time. I feel like we got the full, we'll break it down day by day, but we got the full
we were up here
New Mexico
Saturday
experience.
night.
Oh, were we?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we camped in the rooftop tent.
Yep.
So I drove up just to get into it, I drove up from Texas on Saturday, woke up about 6 and drove up, picked Jake up, and we drove all the way over here to about an hour from where we were going to be hunting and camped in the rooftop tent, and 7th day camping in that thing so far this year, and I only got it like 3 weeks ago.
It's only like September 15th.
Yeah,
or
so
whatever it is. Yeah, it's 14th.
It's been getting plenty of use. We slept on the side of the highway in the national forest, and it really wasn't bad, but we really got we had some cars ripping through the bottom in there.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I guess where do we want to start with this?
So much has happened in the last 5 days.
It has been a roller coaster. That's what we said last night. We were like, man, we've been through it, and I feel like we got the full experience of New Mexico elk hunting.
Yeah, we did. I mean, so let's start. We showed up here on Sunday, and we got here a little after noon, shooting the bow a little bit before we showed up. And so we came up and met the guy that was going to be taking us out, Tristan, and I was hoping we were going to get to go out that first evening. I was like, we should have plenty of time, you know. Surely the guy will want to take us out tonight, mainly because, like, if you kill one tonight, I don't know if you get a week off or they just send you with someone else, but I was like, of course, he'll be motivated to take us out tonight. And so he's like, y'all want to go out? And we're like, yeah. So we shot the bow, got ready, and it was like 4:45, and we headed to the mountains. And man, did we get culture shocked right off the bat going up that first hill. What are you looking for? Your phone?
Yes.
Did you lose it? You were charging it.
Oh, okay, sweet. Good job.
I'm a man. Right there.
Nice. All right, we're back. Well, I'm just making sure I didn't leave it at the gas station when we're showering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we're going up so we go out that first evening on Sunday, and as we're climbing the first hill, like Tristan drives us by, and I'm looking at the first hill. He goes, "Doesn't look too bad, huh?" And I'm like, "No, it doesn't look too bad." And he goes, "It sucks."
Yeah.
And
he's like, "Yeah, it takes about 25 minutes to go up it." And we're like, "Okay."
Yeah. So we're like, "Okay, let's do it." And we probably stopped every bit of 4 or 5 times. Now he was stopping. I think it was a courtesy to us. It was not him stopping because he needed to stop.
Yeah. And I don't know what Northeast Oklahoma is like elevation-wise.
It's not much. It's like less than 1,000 or 1,000, something like that.
And what did he say we were? Like relatively most of the time?
Oh, we're like 8,000 feet.
Also, we probably want to get around these guys.
Yeah,
I don't trust those logs.
He was waving me around, but there's a car coming.
Nice.
Yeah, we were right around, I think, 8,000 feet. It gets up to like 9,500 feet.
And you would think spending one night, like just probably 30 minutes outside of camp.
Yeah.
Before we were supposed to get into camp and get like situated and all that stuff, you'd think that'd help acclimate you just a little bit.
Just a little bit. It did.
But that very first hill, we got like halfway up it, and we were like, my legs aren't tired, but I can't catch my breath.
No, my heart was. I could feel it. You know when your heart beats so hard, you're feeling it like in your throat.
It's weird.
It just could never. It would never come down. So we were going up the first hill. I'm like, it's gonna be a long week. That's immediately what I'm thinking. I'm like, it's gonna be a long week. So we're hiking up the freaking hill. And after stopping 4 or 5 times and probably 30 minutes later, we get to the top of the hill. And similar to like when I've been like turkey hunting and stuff in the past, like when people get in, when we got up to the top of the hill, like you never really know where everything's kind of situated in the bowls and fingers. So you're like, well, don't want to just get up here and just rip because he could be 150 yards down this bottom. And so Tristan, I mean, lets out the like tiniest cow call I've ever heard. It's like, what?
Yeah, like
fuzz?
String. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
I mean, he's literally like, and he does that 3 or 4 times, and in the bottom just.
Yeah, immediately.
We're like 30 minutes in. I'm like, I love this. I love New Mexico. Yeah. Just off in the bottom, and he's like, okay. So he hits them a few more times with those soft cow calls, and immediately, like, we're getting situated for a shot already. Yeah. And he sends us. We kind of scurry a little bit, get our wind right, and you and I get set up before in front of a bush, and he kind of goes back like 50 or 60 yards and keeps cow calling soft. And it wasn't 5 minutes into him doing that it's like coming up the hill, and here comes a cow. How close do you think she was?
I mean, so you were situated a little bit further up than me. I mean, just by a couple yards, but you could see her a lot better than I could. I think I only got like the bottom of her brisket kind of before, she bolted. But, yeah.
Yeah, she was close.
Yeah. Oh, that was the question. Yeah, I think she's about 35 yards maybe.
I remember thinking, like, if that was a bull, I could have got drawn on him because I saw her just peek up, and she's scanning around looking, and he's still in the bottom bugling. Mm-hmm. And she comes up on the hill and is kind of scanning around.
How far do you think the bull was?
After hearing what we've heard and had an experience, I bet he was probably about 150.
Yeah. See, that's exactly what was going through my mind.
Because it's weird because you think like, oh, man, if one's 70 yards, like it'll blow your eardrums. And then we got to hear this bull that I shot bugle, and I'm like, it's loud and it's close, but it's not like exponentially louder when they're at 70 versus 150. So, no, she ends up, I don't know if she caught her wind or what it was, but she ends up getting up on the hill and bolting and pretty much taking him with her. And I think he still bugled a few times. Oh, there you go. I think he still bugled a few times when he was running off, but just completely worked the other direction. And like Tristan was saying, I think he was going to follow that cow right up.
Yeah.
Well,
he was just kind of hanging back a little bit. And like, honestly, the distance gap between the cow and the bull, like that cow would have been on top of us before the bull would have even peaked.
It reminded me of like hunting turkeys when you call in the hens first and you're like, okay, this is the test. If you pass the test, and same thing with whitetail, it's like you pass the doe test, the buck comes, but he's always the one like in the back waiting for you to pass. And it's like the vibe check. If you don't pass it, you don't get to move to the next level.
Right.
And we failed level 1, so he runs off.
Yeah,
with her.
but that was the first good go at it. And like we said, we literally just peaked that hill, walked maybe 100 yards, and then it was like, all right, get situated for a shot. So
I'm thinking, no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
What more could you ask for?
Yeah. So that was our first encounter. I think we hiked probably another mile and a half in there.
How many bugles did we hear that first evening?
I think it was just that bull, right? I don't think we ended up striking anything else up that night.
Maybe.
And if there was, it was faint. It wasn't anything
probably
close. So I think we heard probably 8 or 10 bugles that first evening, and I was like, man, we got close to one. That was,
and we still got 5 days of this.
Yeah, that was awesome. So yeah, we backed out of there, and we came back there immediately the next morning, right? So yeah, we got in there the next morning, hiked up that hill. Oh no, as we were leaving the first evening, getting back to the truck, we found a shed. Tristan found a shed.
Yep, that is true.
That was a nice bull.
Old chewed up one.
Yeah, and so we got out of there, came back there in the next morning, and as we're hiking in the next morning, it's like 3 or 4 bulls.
Yeah.
Sounding off, like in different cuts, different bowls, and we're like, okay. And none of them were super close. I mean, they all kind of sounded faint. But we worked up that ridge.
And the access wasn't bad either. Like we'd probably wake up about 3:50, be ready to go by 4:30, and probably leave camp around 5.
Right.
And then we were hiking up probably at like 5:15, 5:20ish.
Well, it's different from whitetail hunting because you're not hunting you're not waiting for anything to walk by you, so it's like you don't need to be in the woods when it's pitch dark. You can't do anything about it.
Right. Plus, also, from what I gathered, like it's okay to walk in like just at first light as well, because you kind of want to hunt your way through the area, because they could be right off the road, as we seen, a few days later. They could be right off the road, and so that's what you want to do. You want to like start your trek up wherever you're going to go or your destination, and then call and work your way up the hill. And it made sense why we kind of got that late start, so to speak.
For a whitetail, you'd be like, I'm late. I'm late.
You'd be trying to shuffle in there, throw all your stuff on.
But it's the same thing.
Leave your Red Bull in the truck.
It's the same thing with like pronghorn and any of this Western stuff. It's like, if you're not setting up in a tree, you can walk in and just like hunt your way through an area. I like that. I think it's freaking fun. So day 2, or I guess it was morning number 1. I'll just call it day 2. We get up on that ridge and hear those 3 or 4 bulls sounding off. None of them are super close, and so we work it up, and we worked into a spot where Tristan he said he had a bull at 36, 38 yards or something a couple days before, and his arrow came off his string, and so he's like, let's call in here. And he starts calling, and there's immediately one like right down on the bottom, bugling his head off bad. And so much so where we kind of stepped back and thought he was coming up the hill. Like, do you remember when we got down and he like kind of set back 50 yards and we were ready for that bull to come up and
I remember
shoot. And then a
lot of good rubs around there too. Like
a lot of good rubs.
It's kind of crazy seeing the difference between whitetail rubs and elk rubs, because obviously they're a lot bigger, so they're a lot easier to see. But there was a lot of them.
He said some interesting thing about the sap too. Like, if a rub has sap in it, it's like 3 days old because it has time for the plant to. Versus like if there's nothing in it, it means it's a little more fresh. Which I hadn't really ever put too much thought into that personally.
This is actually kind of cool to know.
I usually just see a rub. I'm like, nice.
And honestly, I would think the complete opposite, because there's a lot of times down when we're hunting Oklahoma, you'd get on one of those little rub lines or something,
and it got sap in them.
Yeah, and I'd be like, oh, dude, this is fresh. Yeah, like this happened this evening.
Yeah, that's how I usually thought about it too. So I mean, that bull sat down in there and bugled hard, and I remember he just kept bugling in the same spot, and so we kind of stepped back and we're like, okay, what do we need to do here? And as we're sitting there getting a game plan, do you remember what happened next?
On day 2?
Yeah, the stick breaks, and we're like, oh, here he comes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was fun, because as soon as we were calling that one, we hear this big loud like pop, and we're like, is a tree about to fall? Because like that's how loud it was. It's like a big pop before a tree or a big old limb breaks. And all of a sudden, about 30 seconds later, you just see Winnie the Pooh just come strutting up there, and we're like, and I don't think you or Tristan seen him at first, right?
Not at first. You said bear.
And I was like, bear left. And y'all turned around, and this thing's what, 35 yards away?
40 yards is what I was thinking.
He was a pretty big bear, or at least it just seemed like that from, like, the way he was positioned. Like, he came walking up, and, like, when he first came around that bush, and, like, he was just strutting like normal, and his shoulders, like, each step they were moving, and I was like, uh-oh. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that thing, I'm not Khabib. I couldn't wrestle that thing, but I dang sure could shoot him. He
was sneaking up like I think he was probably trying to sneak up stealthy and broke a branch.
Yeah,
he was like, damn it. But, I mean, he was coming into those cow calls, and he snuck up. And when I asked Tristan, I was like, does that happen very often? He's like, not very often, but, like, it does happen. And he was about the same size of that bear I shot in Saskatchewan. And when he ran off, you could just see all the rolls and skin.
He was
big bear.
Eating well.
Yeah, and he's not a spring bear, so he's in fall, and they're a lot bigger in the fall.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so that was freaking cool. Called in a bear. He ran off, and then we proceeded to drop down to the bottom and chase that bull. And chase him, we did. We chased him, what, a mile?
I mean, we heard him down this, or we were on top of this ridge. We heard him down in the bottom of this ravine, but the way the wind was positioned, it was blowing kind of straight down towards them. So if we would have continued up the ravine, sooner or later they would have caught the wind if they were to stop, and we had to go back down and try to make a move. So what happened was it was like a 50-50 shot, right? If we kept going up the ravine and tried to chase them and just stayed a little bit behind them, that ravine curved back right to where we were positioned on the ravine. So if we would have went straight, we probably would have cut them off good, but again, the wind was a problem. So what we tried to do is we tried to go down in that ravine and basically just, I guess, basically shadow him.
Yep.
And that didn't work.
No.
Because shadow him, we would call, he was down in the ravine, we'd drop down, chasing him, and then all of a sudden we'd call again when we were at the bottom, and he'd be
500-600 yards away.
Yeah. And so it was just, a cat and mouse game the whole time.
It was like leapfrog, but we never leaped him. We were just like chasing him.
No.
We were just chasing him. We chased him all morning. Eventually got to a point where we saw a few of his cows in the binos, and he went over another ridge. And, I mean, he was fired up enough to respond. Like, he responded to most of the calls, but not fired up enough to come check it out.
Right.
So, I feel like you could literally – Tristan was saying he's chased bulls like 7 miles. I'm like, dude,
I believe it. That man can walk. He is half mountain goat.
Yeah.
I fully believe that.
It's like discouraging because you're like, dude, I ain't outrunning this thing.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't decide to turn around and play the game, you're just chasing him for no reason. So we chased that one all morning. Went back to the truck, ate, which we were eating like kings at camp.
We didn't go back. We went back to the truck, then went back to camp.
Oh, so good.
That man can cook, which is so. The camp cook and I guess the whole
Dale
owner of that guide service was Tristan's dad.
No. Curtis is the owner of the guide service. Tristan's dad used to own his own guide service.
Okay, well.
But now he just shows up and cooks and hangs out and enjoys it. So
cool.
It was Dale, Tristan, and Curtis
Well, thank God he's the camp cook.
God, yeah, that's a blessing.
Yeah. Oh, so the first evening, what did we have?
You mean
food-wise?
Oh, dude, I don't remember. We had tacos several times. All I can think about is the fish.
It was. So it was. So the first evening when we got there and after we had that encounter with the cow, which busted. Okay, so right now, guys, just a little break. We are passing the Rio Grande Gorge, I believe.
It is a sight to see.
Isn't that what it is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is crazy.
It's just this giant, like, freaking washout in New Mexico. It's gorgeous. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just, what is it, just southeast probably of Tres Padres?
Yep. Over here by Taos. So, we ate pretty good. I'm trying to think.
The first evening was those little, like, meat tacos, and then it was like, it was almost like the jambalaya rice, kind of.
Oh, and beans.
And then beans. Oh, my God, it was so good. And then, so that was first evening. Went back for the morning.
That was first
after
morning.
The morning.
Yep.
And it was chili, I believe.
Yep, nice chili. So what about that? Our second evening hunt. So day one of the actual hunt, but the second evening. What did we end up doing that evening?
We didn't go to that same spot.
No, we went somewhere else.
Is that when we went and checked out the bowl?
Where
you ended up shooting that one?
Oh, yep.
Or
so,
was it not?
Yep. No, we walked up remember the hill right by the road? We hiked up real high and walked down into that bowl where we bumped the mule deer and the cow.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
That's true.
So we walked back into this other spot. A lot of a really initial ascent right off the road, but then it got pretty easy as we walked in. And we walked in, was just cow calling.
I enjoy that, though. I would rather walk up fresh legs, and then after you get done chasing and you're tired, your trip back to the truck is like a descent.
I like that too.
Yeah.
I would rather do the upfront work. But we hiked into that spot, and we were cow calling and bugling, and we bumped a cow, and she ran off, solo cow, which we're like, oh, okay, well, at least there's elk in here.
Yeah.
And
better than bumping a bull.
Yeah, wasn't gonna shoot a cow that day anyway, so we're like, okay, there's elk in here, cool. And we keep walking, and we jump up. I kid you not, the biggest deer I've ever seen.
So, I only seen the tips above you all because obviously I'm behind you all with the camera. I only seen the tips of it, and I legitimately thought it was an elk.
Yeah, no. So there was a group of I think 3 mule deer bucks, and they were full velvet, amber colored velvet, like a dark red velvet. And one jumps up, and Tristan's like, "Chet, look at that!" And as he's running off, he's 22, 23 inches wide.
And they always look bigger from the back, which we took that into perspective.
Oh yeah. They always do. And he was like 22, 23 inches wide, 15, 16-inch G2s with deep splits, and then huge 3s, huge frame.
What do you think the score?
Yeah,
would
so
be on that thing?
that's what I told Tristan. I didn't want to be the guy. I'd never really seen a mule deer that big, and so I was like, well, I said, that's got to be 170s, right? And he was like, dude. He said, that's 180s easy. And he said, you should have seen the other one. It was way bigger. And I was like, what? So there was legit a 200-inch mule deer in there.
But he was talking about how
he had seen him in there before.
He usually hunts in January for him because I guess that's when the mule deer around here rut is in January. And that's the way he was talking. He's like, oh, dude, like it would blow you away how big these mule deer are around here. He's like 180s, 190s sometimes. And, as a skeptic, you're like,
whatever.
Is he just selling us right now?
Yeah.
But obviously, he turned out to be the most transparent dude ever. And after bumping that, it's like, okay, I
believe you.
Kind of believe everything you say now.
Well, and he had told us before. He said, we're going back in this spot. I glassed up 4 mule deer bucks earlier, like a couple days earlier. And I was like, how big? And he said 2 of them were like 200. And you hear that, like, as a whitetail hunter, you're like,
whatever.
That's like the 170-inch, 120-incher that everybody puts on Facebook. So, no, it was real. We jumped them up, and it was very, very real. And that was freaking cool, watching them run off.
Is that the day we seen all those pronghorn on the side of the road, or was that the next day?
Yeah, we did not see them that day. Not that day.
Okay.
So we hiked back in there after jumping those mule deer, and we had a few faint bugles. I remember we were cow calling and walking, and we were in the middle of one of our walks. There was just a bugle.
Yeah, the first couple of evenings and mornings out, like we didn't go and not hear a bugle.
Oh, it was really good. It was really fun. Yeah, so we went back in there, and we heard several bugles, a lot of faint ones, like 1,000-yard plus kind of bugles, and it wasn't a super eventful hunt apart from seeing those mule deer, but we were still hearing bulls, so we're like, okay, this is still great.
We're in the chips.
We're
experiencing this. It's cool.
Yeah. So day 2, we went back, and I'll tell you, we rarely hunted the same spot. We were like
Hardly
bouncing around. I think that first spot that we hunted the first evening and first morning was the only time we went to the same spot twice. So, which really shows that these guys have spots and they're very familiar with the area, even though it's public land. So we go over, and this is when we hiked into the 3-mile deep spot.
Are you on
morning?
Day 3?
Yeah, day.
So what do we have for dinner that night after we came back? Because that's something to talk about, and the only reason I'm talking about it because every meal was like fantastic.
I think it was. Was that not the chicken Alfredo?
It was chicken Alfredo. You're right. It was chicken Alfredo, and they had the bow tie pasta noodles, and it was solid.
Well, I was eating so good, I was hitting plate benders. Like when you put them on when you fill up a styrofoam plate and it's like starting to like bend in half, you're like, oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's good right there. So next morning we wake up and Tristan's telling us, he's like, I'm taking you to the MFer spot now. Like, this spot sucks to walk back to. And we're like, well,
oh yeah,
when in Rome. So we hiked back in there. We're like a mile and a half back, and we hear our first bugle.
But at this point, so let me stop you. At what day do you think were your lungs starting to acclimate?
Oh, probably the third day.
Third day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Third or fourth day.
I want to say the fourth for me was like I could actually walk up a hill and then like stop for 2 seconds and be like, okay, I caught my breath.
Are you considering Sunday day 1?
Yes.
Okay. So like day 4.
Yeah.
So like Wednesday. I was starting to be like, okay, yeah, this is good. This is nice. So we went back in there that morning and heard some bugles way down in the bottoms. Like way down.
The first bugle we heard, like, yeah, we walked back ways, but then we heard that first bugle just off to the left. Like, we weren't really expecting to hear the bugles right there. We were expecting to go probably another, mile before we really started, like, getting into the prime stuff is what he was talking about. And so we dropped down into that little bowl to chase that one, which was bugling its head off until we got down there, and then it went silent.
The wind was kind of shifty.
It was.
It wasn't like a great wind, and, that's kind of what we were talking about with Tristan is like, it's kind of like a semi-quartering wind. Like you're working into him. If he comes 40 yards to the left, you're screwed. If he comes like straight at you, you might be okay. It was one of those, but it's like, hey, let's try it anyways. And I will say one of the things that
because in the whitetail woods you do the same thing, right? Like if you go to if you go to hunting bedding area or maybe like a little oxbow or something like that, it's like the wind ain't perfect, but like it's okay for him and it's okay for me. So maybe that'll give him enough confidence to do something stupid.
Exactly. Yeah. I will say one of the things that I immediately kind of noticed on this Western stuff is he was walking with a call in one hand and a wind checker in the other. And was just consistently just hitting the wind checker. And everything was about the wind.
Well, because it changed so much. Like you could go up, 400 yards from where you previously were, and it would be blowing
the complete opposite direction.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird how it does that. But so we dropped down into that little ravine probably about a mile before we really started getting into where we thought we'd get into them. And we dropped down, and, again, I think it was the wind situation, but he went radio silent. And so what that did for us, though, is it made it into a more hellacious walk. Because instead of staying up on the top of the ridge the whole time and getting, that 3 miles back there before we thought we'd really get into them, we had to
go back up.
No, we didn't go back up the way we came. We tried to chase that one bull because that's the bull that was echoing. So we were shadowing him as well, kind of. And then which I think we only shadowed him for like maybe 2 bugles, so maybe like 30 minutes maybe. Mm-hmm. But it took us just far enough off the path where he was like, well, let's just go this way. It's going to suck. But then we worked up the side, and it put on probably another, mile and a half on us?
A long ways. And a lot of elevation.
Yeah, it was a lot of elevation change.
You were looking up, and you'd get up to the ridge like, oh, thank God. And then it's just another ridge. Yeah. And then you get up on that one, you'd be like, oh. And then you look up, you're like, another one. So we hiked all the way back in there. And this was the first time that we were getting to – so we were hunting like a bunch of like pines. Like it looked eerily similar to a lot of stuff that we hunt just in the mountains. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time we got to work through like an actual like dark aspen flat. Like when we were walking through, it was real thick with the aspens, and you're like, man, I could see a bull freaking hiding in this crap. Yeah,
but there was no understory whatsoever.
None.
So it was like, oh, cool. But the trees were thick.
Yeah, the trees are very thick. So we worked up and we got up on that big glass and knob with the rocks.
Dude, that was cool because
it was a cool experience.
That was one thing that I do give Tristan props from. It's like, okay, if you're not hearing him, he just walks. And
refuses to not hear one.
Yeah, basically, and I think that's what put us in the chips most of the time because it's like, oh dang, but then we'd go 3 more ridges over, and then all of a sudden, again, like on that little rock glassing knob, because we went on top of a big knob where it probably would have been okay to sit and listen, but he was like, no, I'm going to go right there, and it was like this one singular mound in like the middle of all this like meadow, and you could see for, I don't know, I wouldn't say miles, but a long ways.
Yeah.
And
that's when we saw the antelope out in the flats.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But it was literally like a rock mound. It was like giants just like put rock on top of rock on top of rock, and then up there was like this another big like flat boulder, and it looked so much like a bench it wasn't even funny. Mm-hmm. Like someone could just go up there and sit. It's like they made that like a man-made thing, but obviously it wasn't. And then it was cool because people, I guess, that either hiked up there or hunted there would put rocks on top of this rock pile, and so they kind of made it into that. But we weren't hearing them the whole walk back, and of course the whole time we were walking back there, he was sitting there, cow calling, bugling every now and then, and it was silent. And it was just like, man, I hope he knows what he's doing, because this is a long walk, and every step we take to there, we're gonna have to take back.
Yep.
So literally, as soon as we get set down, and we don't take off our packs and take the first sip of water before we hear the first one sound off. And he just like, oh, yep, hear that. And then all of a sudden there's another one sounding off.
Behind us.
Yeah. And then another one. There's like 4 or 5 bulls sounding off. And a couple of them, you could kind of like see through the patches of trees. And I think he's seen a spike. And then I think you've seen
nice
like a 4x4 or a 4x5 or something like that, which was really cool. And then that led us into our first legitimate shot opportunity. At the Hunter's Advantage, we live by the KISS slogan.
You were not supposed to tell them that.
No, I meant we like to keep it simple, stupid. All jokes aside, Exodus is the definition of keeping it simple. Let's say you aren't really sure what arrow setup you should run. The Exodus Arrow Builder will help you build the right arrows for your exact setup.
Or if you don't have time to change those trail cam batteries in the dog days of summer, Exodus has a great selection of cell cameras and regular trail cameras, and if you pair them with one of their solar panels, you'll be set for a long while. I've shot over a dozen deer and a big old black bear in Saskatchewan with these arrows, and I trust them to fly right and get the job done. And they have something for everyone with the Exodus NIS micro diameter arrows or the Exodus MMTs.
So if you want to save money on Exodus arrows, cell cameras, or anything else they got on their website, make sure to check out ExodusOutdoorGear.com and use code HA10 for 10% off.
Once again, that's ExodusOutdoorGear.com, and make sure to use code HA10 for 10% off at checkout. Now let's get back to the podcast. Yeah, if you want to call it that. Yeah, but it was.
It was.
We'll call it a non-ethical shot opportunity, but it was definitely a shot opportunity. No, but we had that bull behind us, like where we just came from, and then there was a couple more down in that bottom. And what it was just it was an aspen flat. It looked like a creek down in there, just kind of.
It was like a little finger, kind of.
Yeah, like a little finger of aspens, and the bull was in those aspens, just like responding. Like he was responding really good. So we dropped down, probably 800, 900 yards, and we get to about 80 yards from that flat, and it's like he's in there. Like, let's not go marching in there. Let's see if we can call him out. And Tristan's calling, and he's
he's sounding off.
He's hitting the bugle, and he's just and he's like, I really think he's gonna come out.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was.
Yeah, but I think like the first time we got down there and like we got set up because Tristan was a little bit behind us calling. Like the first and second one seemed like he was getting a little bit closer, but then he just like the third and fourth one when he bugled, it was like he was stalemated.
Same spot.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in here. Come get me.
Yeah. And so Tristan was like, oh, all right, I want to stay out here and keep trying to locate him for you guys, and you guys sneak in and basically put a stock on him.
And yeah, you get into those like that little understory in the aspens, and you're like, holy crap! Like it's real soft in there because there was pines in there too. But it was really cool to stalk through because you're like still hunting through, and we were just so from the second that we stepped into that little aspen grove or flat, he never bugled again. No, so we're like, okay.
Why do you think that is? Do you think he was just done responding, or you think he might have heard something?
I don't know, because Tristan sat out there and called to him, and he just never. He wasn't. I don't think he was super fired up, because if he was, he would have came out.
Also, he probably bugled 7 or 8 times previously.
Yeah, it's like how many times do you expect him to? If we would have went in there on his 4th bugle, I think we kill him.
Yeah.
Right. But if he keeps bugling, you're like, he's probably gonna come to us. So why even freaking push in there? Why risk that? Sure. So it was just one of those situations where you try to make some hay. And so we went in there and we're stalking through, just real slow, walking in, and we're walking through just like, and we had like a general direction of where we thought he was. We're like, okay, I think he's like kind of over that direction. And, oh, that was a speed bump. No joke either. And we're just kind of still hunting through there. And it was just an educated guess.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And we get in there, and
we knew the general vicinity, but we don't know if he moved or whether he was still there, whether he was
in
bedded
there 5 cows.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we're just sneaking through, and eventually we get to, we're like, okay, we think we're kind of in here.
And it's pretty thick.
Yeah, we're kind of in here where we think he is. Like, it should be right in here. And immediately, did you spot him first?
No, you did.
Okay. I see him trotting. Like, he sees and he, like, starts taking, like, some fast steps. I'm like, right here. And, of course, out of all of it, he's in the thickest crap. All of it.
And you made a good point. It's like I mean, he was a decent bull too.
He was nice, yeah.
How does he get that?
His horns?
Yeah, how does he get his horns through that thick of stuff? Because, dude, when I say there was like maybe 2 little bitty shooting lanes, and when I say a shooting lane from where he was to where we were standing, maybe a foot wide in some spots. And, so he kind of took off, and you kept trying to, stop him.
Yeah, and I got him stopped.
You got him stopped, but it was literally a 180 away. Like, his butt could have Texas heart shotted him.
Oh, could have sent one right up the poop
right
chute.
Yeah.
That was it. And maybe it was a mistake, maybe it wasn't. But I got into full draw as he's trotting because he's trotting broadside, and he's about 50 away. And I'm like, okay, I can. He's probably going to go in here and stop in one of these lanes. And, of course, he stops in the one lane. I'm like, perfect. But he's looking completely away. And I start to kind of try to work to the left and work to the right, like looking for another lane of maybe like a quartering away
and
shot.
Then he goes up a little bit and moves and then turns back broadside. Not broadside, but kind of quartered away just slightly.
Yeah.
And I see him directly in my field of view. And I'm like, get over here, get over here. And as soon as you take 2 or 3 more steps over here,
again.
Yeah, he starts trotting again. And at that point, like, he's too thick.
Yeah, I mean, that one hurt because I was like, oh, man.
That was a good bull.
Should I have? He was, yeah. After seeing all the bulls that we've seen, I was like, okay, that was probably like a 300. Like, he was like big framed.
Yeah, he was a good one.
He was a really good one. That one hurt because I was like, dude, we were in the freaking chips.
Yeah.
And we went out and, of course we told Tristan. He's like, oh, that sucks. And that hike out. So that hike out was the one that destroyed me. Like, I was in a mental haze the entire hike out because we had to hike back up again.
Yeah. And it was funny because I think everybody did it, but there was like probably a 30, 40-minute period where we didn't say a word to each other. It was nothing but just steps. And I think everybody was somewhat zoned out and was just like, we're just walking. Like, no one else say anything. We're just walking.
Get back to the freaking truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I remember we both were wearing, like, sweatshirts, and when we got back to the truck, both shirts were just completely different colors.
Yeah.
Like,
you were like, why is your shirt different colors?
Mine was too.
Yeah.
Mine was too. I mean, so we went back to camp, ate, and I will say, like, there was such a big lag. You were getting up so early, and it stays light so late that there was such a big lag in time. You guys take a nap every day.
Yeah, it was nice.
Like,
it was a needed nap.
From like 11 to 3 o'clock, you could take a nap if you needed to.
What did we have that evening or that lunchtime? Oh, hello. Get over,
sir. These roads are tiny.
Yeah, buddy. Where's this thing taking you through?
It's taking me through a town, I guess.
Nice.
I don't know why there's so many little speed bumps in here, too.
Yeah.
I don't know what we ended up having that for lunch, but I'm sure it was good.
Was it the little tacos again? It was.
Okay.
It was those, like, little tacos.
Yeah, little, like, barrio tacos.
Yeah,
like,
it was good.
Shells melted. Yeah, that was good. So that evening, where did we go? I think that's when we took the quad. That the first time we took the quad?
We went down in that bowl.
Which one?
Remember the one where you almost got a shot opportunity again? 90 yards?
Oh.
It was because those were both on the same day.
Now you're talking. Yep.
Yeah.
So we moved to a different spot, and kind of we get to take the quad into this one.
And the whole time I'm wondering, like, okay, we heard bulls sound off over here, and we almost got a shot opportunity at one.
Yeah.
Like, why are we switching it up? That's what was going through my mind, and, like, why do you think that is?
The only thing that I can think is, like, let's go hit something fresh. Let's go hit something that hasn't hurt us, like bugle at them and call at them 100 times.
Because let's say we didn't have a guide and, like, we were doing it solo dolo. Like, that would be my mindset. It's like, okay, hey,
let's go hit them again.
We kind of found them in the area. Let's try to make something happen, like a different move or whatever. Let's what's the right word? Try to use this resource while we have it, and then if we burn it out, we'll just
go to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that was really, really burnt out. Because we were hearing 4 or 5 bugles when we got on top of that little rock hill.
I bet that's just the difference between knowing an area and having experience and just, like, not. Because, he had backup on backup on backup. Whereas, like, for us, it's like, well, they're here. Why the frick would we leave them? So, yeah, I went into that new area, and it was really hot in the evenings, like 70s, high 70s, 80s when we were going out. So, like, I don't know about you, but every time I went out in the evening, like, I wasn't super hopeful. I was like, our best hunting's behind us
Which I
today.
think that has to do with like a lot of whitetail stuff. because
Yeah.
mornings, like it's been cold all night, and so your coldest part of the day is in the mornings, obviously. And then as the evening goes, it's like, okay, it's hot, it's hot, it's hot, and then your last 10 minutes of daylight, it's like it's starting to cool down, mosquitoes are out, and then sometimes you see some.
You get 10 minutes of good hunting.
Yeah, basically.
You're hunting 4 hours for 30 minutes in the whitetail woods. Yeah, it's easy to get into that mindset. So, I mean, we went out.
Especially early season.
Yeah. We went out and, shoot, man. We hiked down into a bowl where I was like, this is going to suck walking out.
Well, he took a side-by-side that time, and it was a 30-minute drive in from the side-by-side.
Oh, it was a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. We hiked down to this little bowl and walk up on another nice shed. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that is
dang, I need
true.
to start walking in
This
front
one
of
had
him.
like the white tips, and I was like, oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm. So we had, as we were walking down into that shed, we had a bull sound off.
Yep.
Down in the bottom. And he was a very, very talkative one. And so we're like, okay, we got the wind right. Let's work up this ridge. And it literally was just like a very steep ridge on both sides. And we're working up there. And as we're working up, we walk past this water hole. And he's like, hold on a second. And he looks up. There's a freaking bull bedded at like 80 yards. And I'm like, oh, man, we're about to get to shoot a bedded one. This is going to be freaking awesome. And that bull sat there, and he got out of his bed, probably 30 seconds later?
Yep.
I mean,
I think I seen a different one than you. Like,
oh, really?
That was bedded. Maybe.
Maybe. There were several in there.
Yeah.
So we proceed to, like, kind of get down and start calling at that bedding. Because what I think happened was, like, we walked up, and we didn't startle him too bad, but he, like, knew.
Mm-hmm.
And just enough to be like, all right, I'm going to get up and kind of walk a little bit. So he walks up to probably 90 or 100 yards and starts raking a tree, and Tristan's calling at him. And as he's calling at that bull, it's like, bah,
To the left,
down
to the
ridge,
right.
to the right, bah. And they just like are hammering on this whole hillside. And we're like, gosh dang, there's a lot of bulls in here. How the hell are we not going to shoot one?
Yeah.
And that one sits up there, and of course it's like 90 yards with a ton of brush, and we're like down in this
Always
little
the thick
dry
stuff.
creek. Yeah, they're in this thick stuff. And that bull kind of works off. You can turn that up if you need to.
Yeah, I'm going to. The sun's beating down.
You can also do this.
Great. Now the sun's not on my gut. It's awesome.
There you go. So, no, that one kind of works off, and then another one works in from the right. And then
He's starting
another
to.
one works in.
That one that was bugling far right, like he was getting closer on us. And,
Yeah.
And the whole time I was looking right, because I was like, man, like if these guys stalemate, like this one's probably going to come in, is what I was thinking.
And still the one up the ridge to the far left this whole time is hammering.
Yeah, he
I mean,
was
just
hammering.
like, bah! And he's probably 400 or 500 yards away. So we're like, well, he's there. We're good. We got like 3 or 4 right here.
That was probably the second coolest experience of the trip, for sure.
Oh, I told Tristan after that hunt, I was like, that's the best hunt I've ever been on.
Yeah.
Like the vocalizations, the amount of elk we saw. There were like 3 or 4 bulls under 100 yards, and it's like, oh, well.
What more can you ask for?
Well, and it's also like, crawl in there and get it done. It's like, dude, we were pegged since we walked in.
Since we topped that hill.
But no, we basically just got to watch them all work, and we were cow calling, and they would look at us. They just were not to the point where like, all right, I'm going to commit.
Yeah.
So they sat up there and kind of worked off. And what was really cool, that was the first time I ever saw one bugle. That one that we jumped up out of the bed,
Mm-hmm.
he sat up there at one point, and like there was a bull bugling to his left and a bull bugling to his right, and he was like, like a real soft. And I was like, oh, he's not that frisky. Like a real soft bugle. And bugling all around us. And that was a really cool evening. As those bulls worked off, we were like, let's go try to get after that one that's been hammering for an hour over here to the left.
At this point, we probably got 30 minutes of daylight left.
Yeah, maybe even less. So we went and worked over there. That bull was hammering, but never, as we got close, he got further away. Like he started to work the top of that ridge, never laid eyes on him. He bugled probably 10 more times.
It was like he was interested because he was yelling back, cutting Tristan off, you know. But it was like he was interested, but he had a place to be.
Right. Like if you want it, you come to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did that, and that was one of the cooler hunts that we had. We worked out of that and drove back, and I was, as far as like being in the vicinity, I think what we said when we got back to the quad was like, that's about as close as you can get without getting one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. The only other thing that would have made that hunt better was to get one. There's no other thing that you could probably add.
Yeah. So that was day 3, and I'm after getting into full draw that one at 50 with his butt away, and then getting in between 4 or 5 other bulls. I was like, dude, it's on.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna freaking have some killer hunts from here on out.
Then we got back. What was for dinner that night? It was so we had chicken Alfredo. Was it the ribs and stuff?
Oh, ribs and chicken.
Yeah, yep, that's what it was. Ribs and chicken. So they gave you like a full rib, and then they gave you like one of the tips.
Ends,
Yeah,
yep.
the tips, and then they gave you like a smoked chicken leg with I forget, green beans is what it was.
Oh,
and
so
dude,
good.
it was that dude can cook. Dale can cook. He can come cook for me anytime.
I wish there was like a 1099 you could hire him as a camp chef to like just contract him out.
I think he could teach Justin a thing or two.
Oh yeah, on the smoking side for sure. Yeah. No, that was awesome.
Yeah, no, it was good. So that next morning we get up, and I think we go to the same spot, just on the different side of where we came in.
That's right.
So we're still hunting that same bull where we had that crazy action going on. You snuck up within 90 of those like 3, but you couldn't get a shot off because it was too thick. And so we went to that opposite side where all the calling was, coming from, and we basically put them to bed. So we were expecting to go up there and try to.
That's what Tristan said. He said let's kill that dude in the morning.
Yeah, and so that's what we did. But it was radio silent,
Dude.
Which on the way back, there were some hunters, and we ended up picking them up and giving them a ride, back and stuff like that. And so there was pressure in that area, and so that probably had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that next morning it was radio silent, and just, I guess, to speed it up a little bit, wasn't much happening. I think that was the first morning we didn't hear anything.
Hear or see anything.
Yep.
And it's like it's like the ups and downs of hunting, right? Because it's like when you hear 75 bugles the day before, it is a vibe killer.
Yeah.
To go out and you're like,
watch out for this
nothing. Like we saw nothing.
But then again,
heard
it's
nothing.
like, you know how spoiled we were, like, to hear that much and see that much all in a short period of time. It's like there's people in Colorado, which I know they did with the over-the-counter stuff, that like have been for years. Like the guys that were camping there as well, they were like, yeah, we went to Colorado like last year, 2 years ago, whatever they said, and they were
Didn't
like,
hear a
yeah,
bugle?
we were there for a full 7 days, didn't hear a bugle. The only thing we seen was the butt end of a cow. And it's like, and then you flip that into what we seen here, and obviously a better unit, but it's like we were being spoiled. And so that which after hiking, and then, by the time you go to bed, it's like 11 p.m., sometimes midnight, and then you got to get up in 4 hours. That'll wear on you, especially by, the morning of day 4, and then you got to hike all the way in there, and then you don't hear anything. It's like, dang.
Well, because we were doing, 7 to 15 miles a day?
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, like there was a couple mornings we did 7 and then 7 in the evening, which wears on you, and the lack of sleep. There were several times I woke up that in the mornings and I'm like, dude, I'm freaking about to die.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so freaking tired.
So what happened that, I forget what lunch was. I don't know what lunch was that evening.
I'm not sure. So that morning we go out and we don't see Jack Diddley. We don't see anything.
Don't hear anything.
As we're driving back to the truck, we drive up on like a 300 class bull.
Oh, that's what it was,
Sitting on the side of the road, and he passes, and this dude acted like he had been hunted hard. He's like sprinting away.
Mm-hmm.
And so he kind of goes down in the flat, and we're like, well, at least we didn't skunk seeing something,
That's true.
So at that point, we still hadn't been skunk seeing something.
That was in the evening.
No, that was the morning.
Was it?
Yeah, because we went down and found that. Because in the evening, what we did was we drove into a new area. We drove around to that spot that Tristan said this is where they go when they're hunted hard.
That's right.
Yeah, so we drove over to this new area.
We got skunk there too.
Kind of a flatter area. Worked around for 3 or 4 hours. It starts raining.
It was funny because like Tristan, he can take a joke really well, and we didn't see anything or we seen that one
driving.
Yeah, that one driving, but that morning hunting we didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, and then this evening we didn't see anything, didn't hear anything, but there's a whole bunch of like carcasses there, like just bones of elk and just
cows.
Yeah, and I was like, man, you're supposed to take us to where the live elk are, not the dead ones. And I think it started raining, did it not?
Oh yeah, raining and like thundering lightning was bad.
Yeah.
The lightning, everyone's like,
It was enough to trip me out.
Everyone's like, stay away from me. You're holding the lightning rod with my bow. I was like, somebody else hold this thing.
New Mexico's weird because, which it might be common here, but in northeast Oklahoma where I live, it's like, it either pisses, cats and dogs or it doesn't do anything. And here it's like, it'll be nice and sunny, 84 degrees, and then all of a sudden it'll drop down to like 73, and then it'll kind of start sprinkling on you, or it'll pour for like 10 minutes, and then it's fine.
Well, it's like raining while it's hot. You're like, what's going on?
Yeah. Feels good, though.
Yeah, we went out that evening and walked around in cow cold and didn't see anything. And we're like, I remember we drove into this last spot, and Tristan's like, do you want to get out and hunt this area? And it's like still raining. I'm like, let's just drive up here and call. And so he drives up there and call, radio silence. We're driving back, and this is when we ran into a good herd. You want to talk about what was down in that freaking big bull?
If you guys are anything like us, you love being in the deer woods and chasing big bucks. But there's another part of you that has that itch to chase other big game species.
If you've ever dreamed of chasing black bear, mule deer, or moose, Alberta, Canada is the land of opportunity for these adventure-style hunts.
Each year, hundreds of first-time visiting hunters from around the world come to Alberta for the options, quality, and accessibility that the land offers.
With over 1,800 Boone and Crockett entries and endless possibilities of taking multiple species on a single trip, Alberta is truly a paradise for a big game hunter. This is why we partnered up with the Alberta Professional Outfitters Society. To check it out, go to apos.ab.ca and click Find an Outfitter. From there, you can browse all the different big game species and hunting styles that fit with what you want out of the hunt.
Or you can send a free hunt inquiry through the Follow the Lead tool, and the outfitters who have what you are looking for will reach out to you directly.
So make sure to check out apos.ab.ca to learn all about hunting in Alberta and get connected to the right outfitter for you.
Which we were heading back probably 30 minutes before daylight or before dark, and so we could still see,
A decent amount.
Yeah. And we get to driving, and all of a sudden Tristan's like, there's a whole bunch of elk out there. And it's like this, it's like on the side of a hill, and then it flows down in like this little bottom, and it's like a little meadow area, and kind of looks marshy in there.
Yeah.
And there's some
big creek running through it.
A few like cattle, and then there was like some little dots out there, and of course you all had the binos, and you all were looking, and there was apparently 3 or 4 great bulls. One was a giant with, a handful of cows.
There was a lot more cows than that. There was like 20 or 30
was there?
cows. A lot of cows.
Yeah. So out of those like 4 or 5 bulls, what do you think was the smallest, and what do you think was the biggest?
The smallest was probably about like the one I shot. There was 3 about that size.
Okay.
And then the one, so we're looking, there's like 3 bulls. 2 of them are like locked up fighting. One's over there making a scrape. And then we're like, oh, my gosh, why are they so far away from the cows? Like, that's kind of odd. Mm-hmm. And then we look over to the right, and there's just a megalodon sitting with all the cows.
That's the only one I looked at, because Tristan handed me his binos, and I looked. Because the whole time I'm obviously camera guy here, so I didn't bring my bino harness or anything like that. Tristan's binos are great. I don't know which brand. It's Zeiss.
Like
they're
$2,000
fantastic.
binos, yeah.
And I just locked onto that big bull, and he didn't even look real, dude. It's like one of those ones you see on National Geographic that's out there just playing around.
He looked like what I thought was like Darth Vader, like super dark chocolate horns with very white tips. And so in that low light, all you could see was like just those white tips, and you just saw like 8 of them. He was like a 6x6, I think is what he was. Mm-hmm. And he's just out there, and Tristan,
dude, giant compared to all the other ones, because like the second smallest one was like a good bull, probably what,
300
something like that. But comparatively, it's like, who cares?
That's something different.
Who cares? Because you made a good example. You were like, that's like having a 150-inch whitetail, and then someone showing you a 200-inch whitetail, and you're like,
they're standing in the same field. You're like, who gives a damn?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're like, give me your binos. I'm not looking at that other one. And he sat out there and bugled, dude. Like,
he did.
He sat out there, and he like was starting to get fired up because he's like running his cows around.
2 of the smaller ones were sparring each other too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're like, okay, that is the plan in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
We're going after that sucker right there. And we went back. In Jake fashion, what did we eat that night?
What did we eat that
So it
was it the halibut?
It was the
salmon?
halibut and salmon.
Yeah, that's what it
right.
was. It was. Oh my God! When I say the best meal I probably ever
One of
so
the best home cooked meal I've ever had, probably.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
100%. Because I guess it was halibut and salmon that they took a trip to Alaska and they caught like 600 pounds of it. And I guess they just go up there on vacation and just slay fish. And they bring some back. They donate it to the church, donate it to, friends and family and all that stuff. Well, they serve some of that. And by far the best home-cooked fish I've ever had in my life. Because Dale, he got some white rice, and I think it was rosemary cream sauce or something like that.
Sauce.
You could have drank that thing with a straw.
I told him, I said, give me 2 cups of rice, and I'll just drown it in this and just eat it.
It was so good. But, yeah, he made that bed of rice, threw either the halibut or the salmon on there, and then he poured the sauce on it, and then there was like some little like breadcrumbs or something, something crunchy that he sprinkled on top. Oh, my God. I was walking back to that little dinner tent thing.
Yep.
And I took my first bite as I was walking there, and I immediately stopped, and I was like, oh, my God.
Like melts in your mouth.
Dude, it was so good. I can't describe how good it was. And I think you had the salmon. I had the halibut.
Yep.
Which one did you like better?
I like the salmon better. I tried the halibut, and I was like, okay, that's still really good.
Oh, it's so great.
And I went back because he was like, oh, I made a ton. Like, come back if you guys want it. And I went back, loaded up a whole nother plate, like as big or bigger than the first plate. And I was like, let me try the halibut this time. And he put it on there, and I ate 2 plates of that. And then you were like, dude, you went back and got the salmon. You're like, I'm about to die. I'm so thick right now. And I'm like, give me the rest of yours.
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
Took it and ate the rest.
It was good. And I'm glad I had the halibut before the salmon, because the salmon was for sure better. Like, dude, it was so good. But at first, I was like, dude, you can't beat this halibut. So it was like the best of both worlds right there. But anyways, so that next morning, we go back to where we seen those
Darth Vader
in the meadow.
That's when. So what happened was you posted the story. You were like, hey.
I was so confident we were going to kill that next morning. It wasn't even fun. There was like 7 big bulls. It's like, how do we not? And we know exactly where they were.
Yeah. Yep. So we went in there the next morning, and they're there. They were all exactly where we left them, pretty much.
Yep.
And stood up on the road, and they bugled a few times, and we kind of just sat there and enjoyed the show. And as we're driving around to start, like, I guess get a game plan to stalk.
So the plan was to come around on top of that big ridge and watch them and see where they funneled through, in midday to go bed, and we're just going to try to get in front and cut them off then.
Yep.
And that was the game plan, but that was short-lived, because as soon as we got around on top and worked our way, which it was probably, I don't know.
We saw Darth Vader in the bottom first.
Yeah, we did.
We're driving around to go to the other, because we're like, okay, we got 3 bulls right there, let's go do it. We drive around.
Why is this dude driving so slow? He's from Nebraska. That makes sense.
My man.
Ain't no corn around here, brother.
Nope. Well, we so as we're driving around to get on those other bulls and get a game plan, the big one is standing like 50 yards off the road with like several cows.
You know it's big whenever the guide is like, "That's the big one."
Yeah. And it's still kind of that gray light, and I can see him, and I'm like, I get him in my binos, I'm like, yeah, that's him. Like freaking just 2 arms coming out of his head, just whipped around. And so he kind of runs off, and Tristan says he sees him kind of working up the side of that mountain, and we're like, okay, let's go up there and cut him off.
Mm-hmm.
And we went up and didn't run into him. As we go to the other side, every single one of those other elk are gone.
Yeah.
Like, and you can see for a long ways, and I'm like, how did 30 elk disappear?
And they did, though.
In 30 minutes, they were all like within a mile or over a mile away, just gone. And that like baffled me and confused me.
Which there was like a little stream or creek that kind of ran through right where they were, and it did have some shrubbery where they could have just bedded down and stuff. But like they were tight-lipped, they weren't speaking. So like, what are you gonna do? Like, how are you gonna know for sure if they're right there and all this like thick stuff right next to the stream, or if they're not in one of those other fingers on
3
top?
miles away.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think we left after that.
We worked all that timber. For a few hours.
Which I guess I was just trying to summarize it. We walked another 3 miles trying to
Yeah, and we were doing what we were doing there a little differently was Tristan was sitting like 100 yards behind us calling, and we were kind of going up because we had heard a lot of people in camp saying that, hey, sit back behind with the caller and you get up in front because there's bulls working in silently. And they said they'd have like shots doing that. And so we did that and got like 100 yards up, and that's when Tristan said that he called in a raghorn and that we never saw. And he said he came in like 45 yards from him. But anyways, at that point, that's when I'm like, hey, it's day 5 at this point, and this is only going 6 days. So it's time to put the miles on the boots.
We get there on Sunday. We're leaving Friday.
Yep.
Friday evening.
And I'm like, it's time to put the miles on the boots. And so
at this point, just to put it in perspective, it is Thursday morning.
Yep. And we're leaving the next day. And so I'm like, Tristan's like, what do you want to do? It's your hunt. We could do this, this, and this. I'm like, well, let's keep going. Let's keep doing this and calling. So
it's a beautiful hillside.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, this is similar to where we stayed. I think we stayed just up here.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, they're like, will you get off my butt? Thank you.
I should pull over and let this person by because they've been on my butt the whole freaking time. Go, lady. Do your thing.
Don't let that Nebraska lady back in front of you.
No, but this lady's like literally been riding me. It's a handicapper. They got a handicap sticker. They're just enjoying the cruise. No, but we walked like probably 4 or 5 miles that morning.
Also, where we stayed was probably about 15 miles back.
It was by that cafe?
Yeah.
Yeah. 15 miles. We ain't moving very quick through here.
No, we're not, which is fine. Anyways.
So, yeah, we called that morning, didn't get into anything. And that one was a real heartbreaker because we had so many bulls
in there. And it was a kick in the nuts is what it was. And after seeing that big of a bull, like, you go to bed the night before and you're just, like, giddy, almost can't sleep because you're like, oh, my God, we're going to kill a giant.
You're raising up out of your bed like the Undertaker.
How could you not? You know exactly where they are. Like, you literally put them to bed. You're going to be up there first thing, the next morning. And it's like, how could you not get a stalk on at least one of them? Or a shot opportunity, on at least one of them.
Yeah, and we didn't. And so, at that point, I'm like, oh, dude, this sucks. Like, and they only bugled out of those big group of bulls. There was like 5 or 6 bugles that whole morning. And then once they were done on that gray light, it was just nothing.
Yeah.
No talking at all.
Which it almost makes me think, like, did someone else kind of follow behind us or, 15 minutes behind us on everything, and, like, they drove up and then they just tried to make a quicker stalk on it than us, you know what I mean? And just drove them out. Like, I guess there's no way of knowing now, but it was a kick in the nuts for everybody. Me, you, Tristan, like, everybody was kind of, like,
discouraged,
put out a little bit.
Yeah.
And but after a quick nap and a bite to eat, we went back out that evening.
This was the only day that I didn't nap.
Really?
Yeah, it was hot in the tent that day, and like
it was a sauna.
When it gets super hot, you're like, dude, they're not gonna be moving, they're not gonna be talking. Like, this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
And you're still walking whether they're talking or not, because
right.
you're just trying to make something happen. And so yeah, I put on my my Lucky Killing shirt. It's a short sleeve Realtree from like 20 years ago. And
hashtag ad, hashtag sponsor. No,
yeah,
just kidding. Just kidding.
When I put that thing on, I mean business. And we went out that evening in a spot that we had. It was a different approach angle, but in a similar spot where we had those bulls. I think on evening of day 2.
It was down to that bull where you almost got the shot opportunity at 90.
No,
but yes, it was.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yep.
It was just the different side of it.
Yeah, which we had came up in that area from 2 different angles already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we get in there, and it's more of the same, like more radio silence.
Well, our plan was to set a water hole that evening.
Yeah.
And because there's a lot of the other guys saying that they were getting shot opportunities at water holes, and so, we walked and walked and walked and walked, and we were hearing them, but we're also in this little funk from that morning, and we're like, all right, let's just try to get in front of one. You know what I mean? Like, we were getting in front of them, but it was either too thick and the shots weren't ethical and stuff like that. So it was like water hole. Well, we walk up there and there's a dude already hunting that water hole
and is blind, and that's a crappy feeling for everybody involved. It's gotta suck.
Yeah.
When somebody's working through the timber bugling and you're at the water hole and you're like, oh, here we go, and then it walks over and it's 3 guys. One guy with a bugle tube, one guy with a bow, and one guy with a camera. And you're just like, oh, that's I felt bad for that.
Yeah.
But that's part of hunting public land.
That's what it is.
So we worked away, And we started just literally more of the same, of Tristan staying back 100 yards, bugling and cow calling, and we had nothing come in. I mean, to the point where Tristan...
Well, we heard a bugle, but it was just another dude further down the ridge.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, we heard a bugle, we're like, that's a person.
So after that morning, and then, seeing a guy at a water hole where we were going to sit, because we didn't have in mind we were just going to walk miles that day. And then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, I guess we're walking. And then we bugle, and about a mile later we hear a guy, definitely bugle, definitely a guy. And so we started working up the ridge. So it sounded like he was down kind of in a bottom, and we were up the ridge. And I don't know what Tristan was thinking, but in my mind I was like, okay, maybe Tristan's trying to put it in perspective, like that guy's going down there. Maybe anything between him and us, he's going to try to push our way, just from pressure-wise. That's what was going through my mind, but I didn't know where we were. I didn't know we were in that bowl until we were driving out. And so we basically walked up this ridge, and we got to the top, and it was kind of plateaued out there, and we were on this road, and I think we were on our circle back, because at this point it was like, we were like halfway through the hunt. We're just now starting to circle back and work our way down this other side of the ridge and probably call until we get back to the side-by-side. And as we're turning, walking down this road, Tristan's still kind of cow calling every now and then, but he stops mid-stride and was like, I think I heard one, which I reaffirmed, like I heard the same thing.
But it was crap.
It was so faint, and all it was just the highest pitch of
and then you lose it, like
the bugle,
highest
and that's
pitch.
all it was, because it was pretty dang windy there too.
Very windy.
We walked up. Our plan was to set the water hole. There was a guy sitting there, so we walked up, and then about a mile later, there was we heard our first bugle, but that happened to be another hunter. So we skirted it, and again, I don't know his thought process, but my thought process was we're going to get up on this ridge, and maybe if that guy that's calling at the bottom of this little valley is pushing elk upwards, because every single time we bumped an elk, they went up. Right.
I think they do that because they're like, that ain't catching me.
Yeah.
They know
he has two legs.
They're better suited for going up the hill than whatever is going after them.
So we made our way to the midpoint. Kind of, we're on the road, and we were probably going to turn, walk the road, and kind of work our way back to the buggy. And then all of a sudden, there was like this little faint. Oh yeah, that's where we were. Which we can pick back up on the faintness of it. So, Tristan heard it. I heard it. You didn't hear it.
I was walking behind you guys.
I mean, the wind was kind of cutting, and it was, what is this guy doing?
Oh, he's getting rid of something. Or picking up trash or something.
That's nice of him.
Oh, my man.
Cool.
So the faintness.
Yeah. Tristan heard it. I heard it. You didn't hear it, but it was like the highest pitch of the elk bugle, and it just barely cut through the wind enough for us to be like, oh, that was for sure one over here. And Tristan was like, you guys want to go for it? Because it sounded really far away. And we were like, well, it's day 4 of 5.
Well, it was day 5 if we're counting Sunday as the
right. So it's the second to last day, so we're gonna try it regardless. And thank God we did, because Tristan, we all walked over there. He let out another bugle, and that thing sounded like it was maybe, I don't know,
250, 200.
Maybe to me it sounded maybe a poke further down, because
there was a very steep
it sounded like it was at the bottom of the bowl, which he probably was.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan was for Tristan to sit back and locate while me and you went down towards the bottom.
Similar to what we had done with that one when we got to 50 yards with the butt shot.
Right. Hold on. I got a cough. All right. And so that was the plan, and we were trying to execute it, but literally as we were walking down, we didn't get maybe 20 yards away from the top where we started, and Tristan called again, and this bull responded, and he sounded like, I don't know, maybe 100 yards closer.
Yeah, it kind of shocked me. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, and of course, we're like, okay, he's coming up. Tristan whistles, and he's like, he's sign languaging with his fingers. He's like, that bull is walking up, and we're like, yeah, like, absolutely he is. And so at this point, we're walking on like straight rock, and it's like slate rock kind of stuff, and it was loud. Even though the wind was picking up, and again, I think that's another reason why we even got a shot off is because of the wind, kind of masked all the rock sounds, right? And so you're like, I want to kind of sneak down this bottom because
where you were sitting,
I think
my visibility was like 10 yards.
Right, but I think he called again, and then he responded again. That bull responded again, and he was even closer. And we're like, oh my God,
he's coming.
And so at that point, like I freeze up because I'm like trying to process it, like where I think he is, and you probably leave 10, 15 yards down the hill from me, and I'm staying there, and I'm like, okay, he's close. I don't want to make a whole lot of racket either, and but as you're walking, I don't know if you heard it, but it was like a.
I did.
Just a big like breath, like a. And I don't know if that was him busting out or him just catching his breath from like sprinting up the hill or what, but
I assumed it was busting because it reminded me of like if a whitetail buck could blow, that's what it would sound like.
Yeah,
it's like a
as soon as they take off, they're like, you know what I mean? And so we heard that and we just listened for maybe another 5 or 10.
Oh, my heart sank.
Yeah,
I was like,
oh yeah,
because it was close.
Insult to injury at that point, but this whole time the wind's perfect, like it's blowing directly in our face. Up the hill to where we came from, so we're like, I guess he might have seen us through these bushes because it was relatively thick, like it had that shrub oak type stuff.
Yeah.
And so we're like, we can barely see through this bush. Maybe he just was at a different angle, and like maybe he's seen us, maybe he heard us somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And then we were sitting there listening, and I could hear him walking on the rocks, and I was like, he's right there, like he's right there. And I think I got your attention and said that, and then. Right after I said that,
you were like motioning with your hands. He's right there. Like I was just reading your lips.
Well, that's what I was motioning the first time because I could hear him walking. I was like, I hear him walking, and you were like, all right. And I thought he was going to come out like on the other side of the bush where I thought you could see, and you're just going to get a frontal shot. But then on that bush you shot through, I just seen like movement of brown through that bush, and I was like, I see him. He's right there. He's right there. I
immediately drew.
Yeah.
Because it was literally that shrub oak stuff, which that shrub oak is like, it's weird because it's not an oak tree. It's like a bush, but it's oak.
Yeah.
It has acorns all over it. And it was like, that stuff's like nipple high.
Mm-hmm.
And I still am not hearing him. I think I heard him take one step. And when you said, I see him, he's right here, I drew, and I'm like, okay, I have a hole like that big. And
so for the people listening, it's like 2 foot by 2 foot probably, right?
Yeah, and there's like a bush with like, it's not a bush. It's like a stick. It was like sticks with, branches going everywhere. A bush without leaves, call it that. And I drew.
And a hole, it's a gap.
Yeah, I drew back, and I was like, well, if he comes through that hole, I'm just gonna shoot him right there. And he steps in. All I see is his antlers step through the hole, and his head, and like I can see like neck up, and I stop him, and his vitals are right along that bush, but he's like literally touching it. So I'm like,
how far away is he from right?
So I shot him for 30. I think he was probably 25.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put it exactly where I want, and I'm like, man. And he just stops. And, I mean, as he's stopping, just cut one loose. Boom. And I guess I zoned out or blacked out. I didn't really ever hear the hit. But you guys.
The hit was disgusting. So you're using, for the broadhead, you're using the VPA Omegas, and you're shooting the 125 grain, correct?
125s, yeah.
And so your whole arrow weight is like 480, was it?
Yeah, it was like 480 on this
dude
trip.
So if you've been hunting long enough, you've heard like a good shot on a whitetail where it just rips through that chest cavity, right? And it's just like it's a sound that's like no other sounds. It's like this thunk, and it's like it sounds like you're hitting a tree, but almost like a hollow
tree.
Yeah, and just the sound, it sounded disgusting, and I bet you can hear it on the audio.
I bet
once we blow it up on a big screen and like mess with the gain and stuff. But like the sound was and as soon as you let one rip and I heard that thunk, I was like, it's over. Like it is a dead bull. I didn't see the shot. I didn't have to see the shot. If you hit it in any sort of meat that isn't that chest cavity, you're not getting that sound. That sound was so distinct and so clear. I was like, he's dead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I heard it and he like sprints down, and I just hear him running off because I didn't see exactly where my arrow impacted it. But I was like, God, I was right there, and it was like point blank. So I for sure didn't think I missed. And he runs down, and we kind of like sprint over to the rocks, and all his cows are busting out, and he runs and stops like probably mid-60s range. And I'm like, I'm shooting the sucker again. I didn't range him. I didn't anything. As he runs down to that tree, stops by like this big landmark tree, and as I'm like knocking another arrow, and you can see it in the video, I just see like this blood swelling up in his shoulder, like just start to swell out. I'm like, oh, I hit him good. And so I draw back. I got a 42-yard pin, and I put it like maybe a little bit above his back, and I was like, he's already hit, but I'm going to hit him again. And I shoot, and it goes probably a foot further than I was aiming in front of me, and it hits him like right at the base of the neck and just glides through like butter. And I was like, okay, now I definitely got him. And Tristan comes running down the hill, and he's
Dude,
like, yes!
everybody's freaking out. Everybody's freaking out at this point because, I mean, it's not every day you get a shot on a bull, but you got 2 shots and 2 hits. And it was 2 critical hits at that point. But, I mean, what was going through your mind after all that was said and done?
Dude, I was freaking out.
Because literally 5 minutes before that whole encounter was maybe 3 or 4 minutes. And 5 minutes before that, it was literally the lows of lows, dead silent, radio silent, and then all of a sudden, now you've arrowed a bull twice.
That's just bow hunting. It's like turd sandwiches 90% of the time. It's like you hunt for that one moment.
That's how quick everything changes.
You're hunting like the entire. You're doing 50, 60 miles in the mountains for one shot opportunity, and that shot opportunity might not even be a good one. In this instance, it was a great one, but yeah, I was just like freaking out because, to be honest, like I know it's not over until it's the fat lady sings, but in that situation, I'm like, it's not looking good.
Dude.
Every hunt has gotten progressively
not
worse.
looking good for the bull, you mean?
Yeah, it wasn't looking good for us from the bugles and responding is what I mean. And no, we walk over there to where my first arrow was. We were like, all right, let's give him a minute. I thought I heard him crash. Personally, I thought I heard him crash on the rocks. And I was watching, and every single one of his cows was funneling out of that bottom. And I was like, there's a cow. And then I remember Tristan walks up, and he's like, oh, there he is. He's getting away. And I pull up my binoculars, and I'm like, that's a cow.
Yeah, it was a cow.
That's a cow. So we walk over there where my first shot was at like 25, and it's just like blood. As we're walking to the spot, I'm like,
arrow was covered.
Oh, yeah. So what had happened, it was like full pass-through, but it broke off like literally right before the flesh.
Inch or two?
Yeah, and that stayed in him. Like on the exit side, that stayed in him. And then my arrow was complete bastard just sitting there on the ground. Picked that up. It's just freaking soaked like lung blood. And then we walked down to where I shot him, and you saw him immediately.
Well, we were all looking, and we're like, okay, there's blood. And as y'all were looking down looking for blood, I was like, y'all got the blood covered. And like I was like, I know he's dead. You thought you heard him crash. I didn't. I was hyperventilating at that point. And I see him, but it went through my mind to be like, should I let him try to find him?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm not going to do that to him. I'm not going to do that to him. And I was like, I think I see something over there.
And he was just piled up.
Yeah.
You couldn't see his antlers either. Like he was just like piled up in like a weird position.
Yeah.
And we walk over there, and it's just like out of a garden hose, just sprayed. Yeah. I mean, everywhere,
dude,
everywhere.
It was awesome. It was like, what's that over there? And then both y'all shot your heads up and threw the binos up, and you're like, yes! Like your arms immediately went up. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
Cool. We walked over there. There's like red carpet spraying out of both sides, which you hit them in like 2 of the most vital organs you can, through both lungs, through both shoulders, dude, and then also in the jugular.
You had to hit the jug.
I mean, he was just like,
it was
every side.
I know we use this expression a lot, like, you know, you had a water hose and you had your thumb on it, kind of spraying it. Mm-hmm. This was that, though.
It was all over the place.
That was a lot of blood.
Walked up to him, and when I shot him, I was like, I remember when he came through the brush, I was like, that's a good bull. Like, that is not the smallest bull that I've seen this week. And we walked down to him, and I was like, this is freaking awesome.
So what was he?
He's a 5x4. I would call that a 9-point where I'm from. But a 5x4. I don't even know how you describe. I don't know anything about measurements on a bull.
Oh, well,
good fronts.
Check the Instagram. That's all we can say.
Yeah. He was a stud, and it was weird because like this looks eerily. This reminds me of a cow, like an actual like beef cow, and with horns, like just their face.
It's a cow, horse, and deer mixed. That's what it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it was really big. I bet 400 and something pounds. It was like when I walked up to him, I was like, this body's a little smaller than I thought.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was imagining something like 700-800 pounds, which I guess elk aren't 800 pounds.
I bet you they could in some areas.
Maybe, but no, I mean I was just ecstatic. Like good frame, good bull.
So where were the shots again?
Literally both through both shoulders.
Yeah.
Both through both shoulders and the jug. We didn't even find the second arrow ripped through so hard and fast. It was like that arrow's gone.
Yeah.
I bet it hit. And
we looked for it, but that's for someone else to find.
Yeah. So, I mean, we just sat there and enjoyed it. I mean, that was. We were telling Tristan like throughout the whole week, like, man, you're trying to give us the full experience.
Yeah.
Like the up, the down, the seeing bulls, the not seeing them, the hearing them, the not hearing them, the low country hunting, the high country hunting. Like we literally got a piece of everything. Every hunt was just a little bit different.
And dude, the scenery most of those days, like you're on top of these ridges and you can just see for miles upon miles, and you're like, God does exist.
He's showing off.
Yeah.
It's weird because, you know, I go to Colorado to ski usually like once a year, and
You're bougie, we get it.
I know, yeah. I'm not good at skiing, but I go skiing. I'm used to seeing the mountains with like aspens, and here just reminds me a lot of eastern Oklahoma, like pines. And it's just like if you took the pines and just replaced them and put them in the mountains and took away all the aspens. No, it's still rolling. And it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Just the up and the down. And it's hard hiking and hard hunting, but all those moments are worth it. And I can tell you, I'm glad we did not have to pack that sucker out too far.
Yeah, we didn't.
Only like 200-something yards, and then we put it in the buggy.
Game bags are cool, too. That's our first kind of experience using game bags because, I mean, we hunt some more, I don't want to say desolate because where we hunted in Oklahoma compared to, you know, this week is like, that's not desolate, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We would always just drag them out and then, you know, do the old stick method or just throw them over two people's shoulders. One person gets the butt end, people get, you know, the front shoulders and head and stuff, and it's like that's just how we got them out, you know, whether that be 2 miles away or 200 yards away. And this, I'm glad we did not have to go very far.
No, so I got those Allen game bags, which people know the Allen brand is like a Walmart brand, and I think I bought them on Amazon for like
used a few of their broadheads when I first started bow hunting.
Yeah. And I don't know where my fourth one went, or it only came with 3, but those bags, like I could get in them and jump around like a beansack.
Yeah.
And you could fit 2 of those rear quarters if you needed to, but we put one rear quarter, and then both front shoulders and like the back straps and stuff. And it was awesome. Yeah. Like meat, I'm so excited to eat that meat. But we hauled it off the mountain. Got the heart rate to probably 180 beats per minute walking up that hill like that.
Yeah.
Which now it makes sense why he was sitting there going, oh, because after I walked up with one of his legs, I was like, oh.
Dude, yeah, because we gutted them and all those guts came out, and you made the comment, you're like, this gut pile is bigger than most of the deer I've ever shot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It came out, and I was like, arms around it like that. Like, it's big.
And if you had to haul all those guts up hills every single day, it's like, yeah. Hell, that heart, you put it in your hand, and it was like twice the size of your hand, and you're just like, okay, but he has a good thumper.
Man, yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, it was probably from what I was talking to Tristan, like, I don't know, a 2 or a 3-year-old bull. Like, just I would say somewhere in between a raghorn and a nice bull, somewhere in there.
Perfect starter bull.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was awesome, just the way it happened. And every time I go out when I've taken a couple beatings in a row in hunting, I'm like, okay, don't get too comfortable because this is when it's gonna happen. It always sneaks up on you.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
Are you sure?
That's how my opportunities always come. Yeah, right after a few beatings.
Yeah.
When I went back.
My opportunities come, but I miss. So it's just like.
Yeah. Well, you made the you made the comment about the mountain keeping score, and I think that's part of it. When we were there the first evening and we almost had that bull come in, I was like, man. That just we wouldn't have earned it.
It wouldn't have been as sweet.
No, not as sweet. But it was a fun 5 days.
Oh, absolutely.
in elk camp.
So how much meat do you think you got in the ice chest back there?
I bet.
And then also, just for the people and for record, how much are you giving me?
Man, I'll give Jake probably 5%, 10%. No, I'm just kidding. As much as you want. But I think 150 pounds probably of just like
150?
pure
Yeah.
mountain goodness. I mean, I think that cooler is a 110, and it could have been filled to the entire top of just like, that's deboned meat. That's not quarters. Deboned, it's like 3 foot high by 4 foot long.
Those so just for starters, we were amazed at the elk tenderloins were as big as like a whitetail backstrap.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, a whitetail tenderloin is usually like 6 or 7 inches long. It's usually one hand you
and then
grab
after
and pull
you cook
it out.
it down, you're like 2 bites. Nice.
Yeah, it was literally the size of a whitetail backstrap. The elk backstraps, I had to change where I was cutting on it because, like, instead of being like that, they're like 3 times the width. So it's gonna be awesome. I'm excited to eat some of that meat at deer camp, just to revitalize the memory. But it was a fun. I would say this is the first legitimate time we've ever been elk hunting. I actually got to go hunting.
I mean, yeah, because we went again. We're not going to get into that backstory again. We went to Colorado before. It was a nature hike and a donation to Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So
yeah,
this and also what we learned, like kind of the areas, and like I feel like we could replicate. Wow, what's this dude doing?
pilot car.
Nice, perfect. I feel like we could replicate it elsewhere, where we won't need a guide.
It was a paid education.
Not meaning we're gonna steal these guys' spots, because like I'm definitely coming back to New Mexico and gonna try to field a tag myself. But like I really think just from like certain terrain features and like to me they seem like they were focusing around a certain feature on about every single one of their spots. It's like these are pretty easily replicated. And then what to do, the do's and nots, when to be patient, when to push forward. And it's like I feel like we got the gist of it.
It reminded me, I kept saying this throughout the week, but it reminded me a lot of turkey hunting. It's like you're running, you're gunning until something.
Why isn't that car going? The pilot car already went.
I don't know, they're being dumb. You're running and you're gunning until something talks, and then you go from there.
Yeah.
It's like you're kind of just running around hoping and just trying to strike something up, and when you do, that's when you really start hunting. So it reminded me a lot of turkey hunting and the calling, the vocalization, the interaction between the two. And, you know, you could definitely get in some of those situations where if you're in a more pressured area or even like an OTC unit where if they're not talking it's like, how do you get in that game? It's like, well, now you're deer hunting elk. Yeah. You know, and this is the same thing with turkeys. Like, our good buddy Jake Ayers, like he's
turkey master.
Yeah, he's a beast.
He's our turkey master.
He's our turkey hunting master and PhD in turkey hunting. I always like when the birds aren't gobbling, he's like, I don't want to whitetail hunt them. I don't want to go out here and try to hunt.
You want to do it right.
A drainage that I'm just sitting waiting for a turkey to walk through. He's like, I want to keep hunting until I find one that wants to play the game.
Yeah. And
there's a lot of people that say and I've seen like Corey Jacobson and some of the elk hunting guys that are like, if he doesn't bugle, I don't want to kill him. It's like, why?
Which I feel like that was kind of their motto back at camp.
Yeah.
Was like, if
their name's Bugling Bull.
Yeah, that's true. Like, they literally go. Like, I think they could have been more. This is my dumb experience, right? So don't take this for anything. But like, I felt like as a whitetail hunter, when we were elk hunting, there are times we could have took a step back and approached some stuff slowly and more patiently. But I think their name of the game was to like, okay, they're going to do their thing, and they're going to do it and walk and try to locate them until they get one to do what your bull did.
What they wanted to do. Yeah. They're literally searching for one to play the game. And if it's not willing to play the game, they're like, well, there will be one that will eventually want to play. And if you stay at that game 7 to 15 miles a day, the odds of you finding one that wants to play
in a good unit,
in a good place to hunt, are pretty high. And is that going to be the style that I go out and do all the time? It depends. I definitely now want to elk hunt every year, but I think it's going to be situational on where you get to hunt.
Yeah.
And that, it's the same thing with turkeys. If you get to go into a place and you're hunting opening day, they might be gobbling their head off, but 3 days later they're not. Does that mean you can't find one that wants to get frisky and play? No, you can, They're just fewer and far between.
Mm-hmm.
And we were hunting, a week plus into the archery season. These elk have heard calls, and that
Seen stuff.
They've seen stuff. They've been shot at probably. So
Yeah, I didn't realize your tag expired in like 2 days too.
yeah, the western stuff's interesting. Like it was a September 1st to 14th season, and then after that, you just go home and make some soup with
Forget about it.
with your tag. But no, it was a very unique experience, very fun. Did it play out differently or as you expected? Or did you have any expectations? Of
Man,
how
I didn't have any expectations, to be honest.
It's kind of hard.
I didn't know. The main thing I wanted out of the ordeal is to like try to figure out how they played the game and how to play the game, like when to move, when not to move, when to do this, when to like the do's and don'ts basically, and like kind of like figured out on like the style. And I mean, I don't want to get into like just talk about all their tactics and like because I don't know whether they would want that or not. But, like, I feel like it's something that could be easily replicated, and so, therefore, it's like, that was my, like, expectations. I wasn't the hunter. I was just filming, so I didn't really care really what you shot.
Yeah.
I mean, I wanted you to shoot something monstrous, but, like, that was my main goals to get out of this.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think what I learned, what I expected was I would say my expectations were pretty met on just getting able to have several interactions with bulls, especially up close, learning when you can move, how you can move, and kind of how much you can move in those situations. I think I will say this, if I was in that exact situation that we got in when we shot the bull and I had not hunted for 5 days before that.
Do you think you screwed up
waiting
for a
I think
clear
I
shot?
would have been where Tristan was sitting, waiting for the bull to come in instead of going to him. That's what I think the difference was.
See, yeah.
I think I would have been like, he's right here, don't move. He'll see. And the thing is, if you're not in a spot where you can make a good shot, what does it mean if he runs in? It doesn't matter anyways.
Yeah.
So that's what I took away from it was like be aggressive.
The win to and then win don't.
And and the wind situation, how important that was.
Yeah.
How he was approaching areas.
It's important.
With the wind.
It's important, but it's also almost like a helpless feeling because it's like, unless you know the spot like he did, like the back of his hand, like over here on this side of the ridge, if the wind's blowing this way, the wind's actually going to be blowing this way. And then like he knew all that, and he was explaining it to us after the shot, and he was like, yeah, that's why we came over this way, is because the wind was showing it was going to be blowing this way, but I know this area and this particular spot, it's going to be blowing up this.
Yeah.
And it was picture perfect. It went to the smallest bugle in the world to hear to him screaming running in.
Well, you always watch TV or Instagram or whatever, and you see a bull running in and getting shot, and you're like, man, that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And to have one actually sprint in while bugling, that's the best scenario in elk hunting.
Yeah.
And we were talking to Tristan. We're like, well, you've shot a lot of elk. What's a good one? What will you shoot? What will you not shoot? He said, if a bull wants to come in, I'm going to shoot him. And I was like, okay. So
basically, if it gets your pecker hard, like, do it.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, though. You got 2 weeks to hunt. It's like you ain't going to be going in there calling it a good one and be like, I'll try, I'll pass.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that it's not management minded, but it's just like people are just trying to go out, have fun, and kill bugle and elk. That's what it's about. And if I shot a bull that size, the next 5 bulls I shot, I'd be like, I'm jacked.
And there's like one gas station there, like relatively around this area where we're hunting. And how many different hunters do you think we've seen?
Lot.
Yeah, and it's like
I haven't seen a bull.
So it was pretty pressured, and still yet they managed to keep us in the game.
And I think that that mentality, what I've always taken away from hunting with Jake Ayers was waking up every day like it's your first hunt. Like going at every hunt like it's day one.
It's hard to do sometimes.
It's so hard. It's the hardest thing to do in hunting.
Yeah.
Act like you haven't had any experience and nothing has happened and nothing has changed and this is your day one, fresh legs. And I would say that that's one thing that Tristan was really good at.
Yeah, he was.
Every hunt was like, this is a different hunt.
Because
Let's go.
You could tell, like, there was like a morning or two where you could tell he was just like off, like not off his game, like guiding wise, but
just
like
tired.
Yeah, he was just tired because that was only our like 3rd or 4th day there at the time when he was kind of telling like he was a little bit fatigued, and he was like, "Yeah, I've been out here. This is like my 12th or 13th day,
in a
row doing this."
Waking up at 4 o'clock,
Yeah.
3:30 in the morning.
And we're like, "Dude, like,
That'll wear on
I'm
a guy.
sorry." Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was good. It was fun. Yeah. The name of the outfitter we went to was Bugling Bulls Outfitter.
Bugling Bull Outfitters.
Bugling
Yep.
Bull. Yeah.
They hunt in northern New Mexico, and then I think they do mule deer in other places and antelope.
Yep.
So it was a good time.
It was a good time.
It was
Good food.
Good company. We had some guys from
Texas,
Kentucky.
Where was Rodrigo from?
From Texas as
Oh,
well.
was he? Nice.
Yeah. So, and it was fun. I mean, other people in camp said that they had bulls come in.
Shot opportunities.
There was a couple bulls that I think got stuck. So I mean, you can't argue with that. It was just fun.
Yeah,
it was just a fun week.
So we're supposed to show up on Sunday. I don't even think we were supposed to really hunt Sunday evening, but it was like a bonus hunt.
Yeah.
Kind of ordeal. It's like, hey, if y'all want to, we can go. We're already here.
Yeah.
And so yeah, basically a 5-day hunt. Monday through Friday, and here we are Friday at 1:22. Driving home with a elk head in the back, deboned meat, and we already stopped at that gas station and showered. And
it couldn't have worked out any better.
Yeah, you're telling me.
I mean, it was fun. So is elk hunting something that you're going to want to try?
You don't know
going forward.
You don't understand. Like, I was content. I was content with the experience. Everything was new to me and all that stuff. But it's going to be hard to go back with just a camera again.
I don't think you'll have to.
I hope I don't have to, because I got points built up in Colorado now. I'm gonna definitely put in for New Mexico. I don't know which unit, because like
buy your Wyoming points.
The biggest experience, buy my Wyoming points, which I think will stop October 1st.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that, again, there's another big takeaway would be you're good to yield. The biggest thing was when you do these hunts, I think it'd be the most bang for your buck to just wait and put in for really good units. Because you said earlier, I don't know if it was on this podcast or was just you and I talking, you could do the same thing in a different unit and have different results.
For sure, yeah. That's not to say, if you want to go on an elk hunt, don't go on an elk hunt. For sure. It's just if you're one of the people that has limited time and money, there's ways to go about it.
And you don't even have to go with an outfitter. You can if you're in a good unit, that's like all it is access at that point, right?
That's all hunting is.
Right. And it's okay, you could have really good access, really good private land to hunt whitetail, in this region of the state. But, if you're not allowed to hunt that, Nebraska, perfect example, right? As a non-resident, unless you put in for
Mule Deer Conservation Area permit.
Yeah, that tag, then your hunting is kind of you know what I mean? Hell, we shot at a 110-inch whitetail.
Mm-hmm.
And you seen maybe a 100-inch mule deer?
Yeah.
And were you going to shoot it?
Yeah, I was going after it.
It's yeah. So I say all to say me going forward, I think instead of the more over-the-counter, easier tags to get to, with the more Western stuff is what I'm talking about, I'm probably going to start just trying to do the point-based good unit system.
Yeah, and it takes a little bit of pre-planning to figure out where you want to go and what you want to do and what the points are. And I get it, people just want to go out and hunt, but something that you got to understand is just if you want to have a good experience, you really got to be a little more intentional about where you're hunting, because you can take your bow on a hike anywhere, and any game and fish is going to take your money to take your bow on that hike.
Yeah.
They do not care one bit. So
that's green.
Yeah, it's green. It's got presidents' faces on it. I think what we're going to do going
Benjamin
forward.
Franklin a president?
Yeah. Dead presidents' faces, baby.
Benjamin Franklin was not a president.
I know he's not a president. I'm getting
idiot.
I don't have hundreds.
Idiot.
I don't have hundreds. So
you want some Tingemans?
Some 20s, some Andrew Jacksons. But I think our plan going forward is just to continue to try to acquire points and just hunt cool places when we can. And that's if that doesn't align to what you guys want to do, that's no worries. But I think that's our plan going forward, just trying to get into places where you're in the game a little more.
Also
on access.
Yeah. Also, it's you came home with an elk. That's the end goal, right? But we were talking about this earlier. Not every hunt that is successful has to end with a harvest.
No, most don't.
Because we were talking earlier, and I think it was off camera. about Nebraska, and it's like, okay, we had shot opportunities. You had plenty of shot opportunities at antelope.
Yep.
I had a shot opportunity at a whitetail in Nebraska, and it's like those were successful to us because it's like we had opportunity.
What more can you ask for?
You can't. You're 2 states away from home. For you, 3 states away from home, and you're in a brand new place hunting a completely different style of hunting. You're not in a tree. You're either in a hay meadow or a freaking prairie land. 5-inch tall grass.
Right.
And it's like you're trying to kill an animal with a stick and string, and it's like, of course, like it's going to be difficult, but if you get within 80, 100 yards of one, it's like, come on now.
That's a success.
Like
call it an opportunity, call it an at-bat, call it whatever you want. All you can ask for is to get in the game.
Yeah.
If you're in the game, the rest is up to you. And by the way, if you hit 1 for 4 in baseball, they call you a beast.
That's most of the time you I feel like if you know that, like going into it, most of the time in hunting, especially bow hunting, with the vertical bow, you're going to be unsuccessful. And like I would try
most hunts, yeah.
I wouldn't try to make that sound like a dig. I'm sorry, but like you're going to be unsuccessful most of the time. Now you could set 15 yards in front of a feeder, and your percentage should be higher.
Yeah.
But like if you're running around on public or like going to different spots, maybe you can even get access in free permission or something in a different state. Still, yet like you're experiencing, you're learning on the fly, trying to make, adapt to different things happening. It's like don't expect to come home with something every single time.
You can't.
And I think that's okay. And I feel like that ain't talked about enough, where it's okay to be unsuccessful. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but yeah, that's what I'll say. I was about to get deep.
Were you about to hit a personal anecdote?
I was.
Okay, well, it might be needed, but I think about it like antelope. That's my 3rd time going and hunting antelope. Every time I get closer, I get more opportunities.
Yeah.
And eventually one of those is going to line up, but you only learn through going and doing it. That's the only way to learn. It's just going and getting ripped up a little bit, especially if you're going and hunting public land, right? Don't expect to have opportunities all the time, and that's not what it's about. You can't dwindle it down. If you're dwindling success down to just killing something, that's a very shallow view of hunting. Because I could have, you could go out there and shoot an elk in the butt at 50 yards and be like, was that a successful hunt? Was it not? I don't know. But yeah, we go on a lot of hunts throughout the year where you ain't bringing nothing home but maybe an arrow or 2 less.
Does it get to you sometimes? Absolutely.
Do you want to put your stuff on Facebook Marketplace sometimes?
Yes. Yes. It's called liquidating.
Yeah, cash flow.
Yeah. That was it. That was the trip. What do you give it out of a 10?
I don't see I don't think it could have went any better, to be honest.
Yeah, full experience. Came home with something.
Yeah. What else can you expect? So there was 5 other guys in camp that were actually hunting. I think we're the only one taking home a bull right now.
Yeah. Most of them, heck, a dude went home early, actually. He's supposed to stay till today, the end of the day, and I think he went home last night. So they still got an evening to go.
Yeah, but, getting to leave and having a bull in the back of the truck, I don't think you can ask for any more. That's nothing short of just a blessing from God. Yep. That is literally all it is, because you sit there sometimes and you're thinking about opportunities and how bad something is going, and you're just like, it is going to take a divine miracle to have something walk in front of me.
That's exactly what we were thinking, though, going into last night.
Yeah, it's going to take a miracle.
Yeah.
And sometimes it does. Sometimes, literally, you're sitting in the tree or you're spotting stalking, and something that you were not expecting happens. But you have to be out there to give it an opportunity to even happen.
Yeah.
And
what is that? What is that? That proverb? It's like idle hands wither away slowly, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. Another one I like is it's in Proverbs 16, I think, but it says, "We throw the dice; God determines how they fall."
God, it's so overused.
I've never heard. That's so cliche. Some girl's got that tatted on her back right now. But no, that literally is it. And we don't deserve an opportunity. There's a couple people.
Oh, look at this. Look at this. We're driving home with an elk in the bed. Heck, y'all might, if we didn't have so much crap in the back, you might be able to see the antler sticking out. And then you look to your left and right, what do you see?
Just freaking mountains.
Mountains.
Trees.
Mountains.
Wide open spaces.
And it's crazy because here in a couple hours, we're going to be driving through Boise City, Oklahoma. And
you're going to see grass, wide open spaces.
Mesas.
Yeah, the Black Mesa. It's just getting to go out and not many people get to go out and experience what we get to experience, and it's just nothing short of a blessing. It's awesome. Yeah. And shooting an elk and getting to bring it back is that's just the cherry on top. But it was a really good week. What do we got coming up next? You're headed to. Are you gonna give Nebraska another whirl?
Yeah. I gotta get back home and see what the plans are with the wife. But I know we got a couple weddings coming up, like towards the end of September, which is only September 14th right now.
I think it's only the 13th.
It's 14th, I think. Oh, it is the 13th. Nice.
Friday
Even
the 13th,
better.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. Wow, we've done a lot so far in September.
I'm done. I'm baked, but I can still go.
That's crazy, but I want to go.
Yeah.
I know I got some honeydews to do
and some work to do.
Dude, catch up. Dude, don't even remind me. But I'm going to try to swing at least another 3 or 4 days in Nebraska sometime between now and the beginning of October, because I'll be honest, dude, there's something special about Oklahoma whitetail, and especially where we hunt and how we do it. I'm in love with it. Like, this was a great experience, but I told you multiple times whenever we were down in the dumps and walking miles, I was like, dude, I can't wait to go back home and sit in a tree. Mm-hmm. And there's just something about it, and I feel so motivated to do so in October and November. It's like I really want to get – I don't want to get Nebraska out of the way, but I just want to punch tag. That way I can, like, focus solely on Oklahoma. Does that sound bad or no?
No, I mean, I think what's cool about those earlier season places is, like, if you can get it done before your other season even opens, you kind of feel like you're in a third level of the Matrix. You're like, what happened? I didn't even hurt my hunting at home.
I know it ain't, like, I'm not trying to compare, like, because I know comparison is a thief of joy and stuff like that, but whenever you don't, like, I don't know, I just feel like it almost puts your mind at ease a little bit if you can get a deer down in September or it's just something down in September, because it's like, hey, I don't need to shoot the first thing that walks out.
You can sit here and say, I don't need to shoot anything the rest of the year, and I'd be satisfied with this season.
And the season hadn't even started yet.
And it literally feels like you're going into another layer of the Matrix, like you're opening up another hole. It's like you're time hacking, which, can be good and can be bad. Like, you start your hunting. I used to tell Lauren hunting season was like October 15th, like November 15th. And it's not. It's like August to February now, which is like half the year. But no, if you can get something down in the early part of the season, it's fun. What's cool about Nebraska too is, like, now this is very regionally specific to where we're hunting, but it doesn't take something real big to get me excited in Nebraska.
No, and it shouldn't, especially in a state you've never been to. It should not. Like, obviously, if a giant mule deer or a giant velveted whitetail walks out, shoot that mother freaker. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if a 100-inch, 115-incher walks out, and especially in velvet, and in my case it had like a 2-inch drop tine, which, if it has a drop tine, it adds like 15 inches personally to that score. So, I mean, if you could find you one of those, dude, fire away.
Well, it's being realistic, too, about where you're hunting. There's probably places in Nebraska that have absolute monsters, but where we're hunting, what's funny is when we ran into the landowner of the place we were hunting, and he was like, like,
top end.
Yeah, and then talking to other people, it's like, that's just, I don't know. Nebraska has been on my list for the last 3 years, and I've donated a good amount to the Parks and Wildlife in Nebraska, and I have a vendetta. You're just starting your vendetta with Nebraska.
Well, so far it nicked me. But I plan on winning the battle or winning the war there this year. But that's what I plan on doing before October hits. So what are you about to be doing?
Well, we got drew similar to what's happening in New Mexico with, like, the limited season. I drew a Kansas muzzleloader tag.
Drawing a tag? No way.
I know. Throwing my name in a bucket and getting it pulled out? What?
Yeah.
No, I drew an early season muzzleloader tag in Kansas, and I plan on that. That season is the 16th to the 29th, so it's a 2-week season. And I plan on going up there relatively soon, probably sometime around next weekend, and hunting. Peyton is actually planning on going up there in
this week,
the 15th, so this Sunday.
Yeah.
And starting to scout and hunt up there because it starts on that Monday, the 16th, and I think he's got some time off of work to go hunt, which, man, I think it'll be good. I've only hunted Kansas once, and I was successful on not a big deer, not what you would call a Kansas deer.
A deer.
But a deer, and so was Peyton. And so I don't know, that early season bean field to like bedding area.
Hard to beat.
It's just a really fun style of hunting.
So how do you feel about the limited season perspective? Like instead of having like a Nebraska where it goes to like December, how do you feel about like these 2-week seasons? Do you like it? Or do you...
I like it. It's like, it's not a pressure makes diamond situation, but it has finality, and I like that. I like when you're like, it's over. You're not sitting there with your wife watching Netflix, and you're like, gosh,
I could
be in Nebraska right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's just when it's over, and you move on. You know, you lick your wound. Because like right now, Nebraska is a good example. I still have a deer tag and an antelope tag in Nebraska.
It's kind of eating
that
at you a
could
little
eat
bit.
me all season. You know, that thing could sit there, and on Thanksgiving, and I'm like, oh, cold front's coming in. I need to, like that kind of deal. So I like the finality of it.
Yeah.
Will I ever hunt like I am right now again in this many like days? I don't know. I got a little boy on the way, and life's fixing to change. So I'm just trying to enjoy this season of it, and my standards for Kansas whitetail would not be too big. I mean, I think a Pope and Young, which I know you have to shoot with archery, the 125 and up with a muzzleloader would get me really jacked. And I want to go out there
screaming.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, I paid my $600. I'll do it. But no, I think that it's going to be a fun hunt, and I just like to get out there and see a lot of deer. You just get to see a lot of them. In the
last
beans.
time we were in Kansas, it was like, not every time, but a lot during September. It was like 16, 13 deer a sit.
Yeah.
Most were does, right? Does and dinks. But every now and then you'd catch a glimpse of that like good one, and you'd be like, okay.
Well, and when you're hunting Kansas, there's always that opportunity of a slammer.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when you're hunting at home and you have trail cameras and your neighbor has trail cameras and 3 people over have trail cameras and
I bet you it'll be even better now that they ban trail cameras on public.
I forgot about that.
I bet you some public pieces aren't going to be pressured or maybe hit, and probably people lose motivation. You know what I mean?
I like the Kansas walk-in program too,
Yeah,
because
cool.
everybody can't be everywhere at once. Like, let's say there's 50 people. Well, if there's more than 50 pieces, they can't all be on them all, you know? And so at some place at that specific time, there's a big buck walking around in daylight.
Yeah.
That gets me motivated. And after walking these New Mexico hills, I am going to tear Kansas up with the leather.
Before these hills, even coming just from, the mountainous parts of Oklahoma and then walking the Kansas field, it's like, oh, no, that's 2.3 miles away. And you're like, I can get there in 10 minutes.
What's beating you is the heat, not the
Yeah,
terrain.
but, dude, I'm telling you what, every time I think of Kansas, I just think of that one spot that's kind of trapped around that lake, and it has private beans to the north. Thick
to the
timbered.
south too.
No, it's timbered to the south. That's where the lake is. And then it's it's basically like north and like northwest and northeast is like all beans, and then that little west spot is like it was tall like grass and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And you just sit over beans and you just see them funneling from that tall grass and going ahead and into those beans, and it's like there's few things that's better than that
For a whitetail hunter.
for a whitetail hunter.
It's
Yeah,
freaking awesome. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like we've done this progressively less hard hunting, maybe not in the right order, but like public land Nebraska antelope, public land deer, then kind of getting beat up a little bit on the New Mexico elk, and then going to Kansas, it's like, okay, season's getting easier.
Yeah.
And then by the opener of Oklahoma, it's like, okay, could go 20 yards over the corn feeder, could really turn this around,
Yeah, I need one of those.
Which, dude, going and doing hunts like this, just
It puts stuff into perspective.
it makes me realize how much I don't want to go just sit over a corn feeder. I'm like, dude, I was just chasing a freaking dragon through the mountains. Why would I
Yeah.
want to go? And it makes you realize why on our videos sometimes the people were like, corn feeder? That ain't even hunting. Previously, I would have been like, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it still is.
God, why would you say that?
But now I understand it from other people's perspective, and it is a less action-packed, it doesn't take a lot of mind power for me to go sit over my corn feeder, which maybe that's a pro, maybe that's a con, but and people want different stuff out of it. But yeah, that's
I think you should do
my
both.
place.
I think you should do both, but I don't think you should do one more than the other. Okay, when I say that, I don't think you should hunt private like over a corn feeder more than you should like other things. That's just me.
You like the public land bug?
The deer mean more to me, which that's a completely different topic. Shouldn't be getting into it right now, but that's just my opinions. Might be because my private sucks, but either way.
We'll think about that. If we had access to 10,000 on private, we'd be like, it's really just about chasing a good one.
Man,
That's what it's about.
The land's big enough. They could have been anywhere there.
Yeah, it's all about your experience. I think the thing that I continually learn, especially this year, is you got to have good access. Whether it's on public, whether it's on private, it does not matter. You got to have good access. The person with the good access is the person that's in the game through over a long period of time who gets the shots and who puts the animals down. That's what it is. Like, you got to have access. Because you could take somebody who has a mediocre hunting skill and put them in the best hunting spot in the world, and they're probably going to get an opportunity.
They're going to come out with something.
So I just learned that more and more.
It's just opportunity based.
And it's also like why you can't compare any situation with other people. Like, you have to hunt for yourself and what you want to do, because nobody's access is the same at all. Do I wish Don Higgins would sell me his 160 acres? Yeah, 100%.
You couldn't afford it, but yeah.
I couldn't afford it, but I wish, I wouldn't a heartbeat if it came out for sale.
So right now we're going through Cimarron Canyon.
This is
and
nuts.
This is a canyon, let me tell you.
It's a real canyon.
I wish people could, like, again, your little VR thing, experience and immerse themselves in this, because this drive is absolutely incredible.
Now, you might only be making it 30 miles an hour, but you're taking the scenic route.
Yeah, that ain't no joke.
They couldn't carve a tunnel through these mountains.
No.
I love the ones where you got a broke neck to look up at them. Like, what's up there? One of the ones if you just like slid down, you wouldn't stop till you hit the bottom.
Yeah, it's like, I bet you up there on that peak, you're closer to God than anyone else right now.
Dude, that's high. That's high. I think there's 10,000 footers in New Mexico, but what's crazy, when you go through Colorado, there's 14ers.
Yeah,
that is nuts.
It is nuts.
That's 2-3 miles up in the sky.
It is nuts, but yeah, that was the trip. That's the plan for the next few weeks. I mean, for those of you listening that have season openers coming up October 1st, kind of like Oklahoma, and y'all haven't got out in the woods or anything yet, it's coming. It's coming. Stay strong. We're right there with you. Dude, I'm chomping at the bit for Oklahoma hunting. I love it, but there are some things to do before then. So it's like one of those things where it's like you want it to get here, but then again, it's like slowly.
Yeah, all in due time. I've seen some monster velvet whitetails get killed this year. Monsters. Like, those Kentucky guys are killing them. There's a lot of freaking things dying right now. It gives, dude, even the elk stuff getting on Facebook or just people we follow on Instagram, I was getting FOMO. Everybody was killing stuff.
Yeah, Blake Garrett was killing that one like 10 yards away.
Oh, dude, like 180-inch mule
deer. Joel
Joel shot him an antelope.
Got an antelope. I think
dude, everybody's
deer right now.
slinging them. I saw Josh Bomar shot a freaking monster antelope in Colorado. But it's just an exciting time. Hunting season
This is
here.
time we've been waiting for all year. Like, hopefully no more 95-degree days. We're just hopefully coasting upper probably. What's this?
No, you're good.
Nice. Hopefully upper like 85 degrees. Obviously, it ain't going to drop down. At least here in Oklahoma, it seems like it doesn't drop down to like highs of 60s until December. But, yeah, I mean, it's that time of year. Thank God. Hopefully all the heat's over with, and it is a cool, crisp fall breeze.
Well, you don't got anything but archery tags, do you? I guess you could hunt the muzzleloader and rifle in Oklahoma, but you got a Nebraska bow tag and 2 Oklahoma tags. So
I got 6 Oklahoma tags.
4
doe, and I'm going to try to fill every single one of them this year.
Are you going to try?
Yeah. I mean, it's just good practice, right?
You going to try that just getting them reps in?
Yeah.
And meat on the other end of the reps?
I think it's good because I never really like tried to fill all my doe tags previously. Like 2016 and 2017, I think is the only years I've tried to like really fill my doe tags. And since then, it's just like, I'm just going to wait on a big buck. Like, I don't need to shoot does. Does are fun to watch. You know what I mean? And so it's like, why shoot them? And the more I get into it and, the more situations you get into while hunting. And, again, I know, like, it's all situational, but I just feel like I need those reps right now to, like, whenever the game time experience comes, just like last season. Game time experience came. That was the first deer I shot at all year. And it's like, I need reps.
We have enough doe tags that you can get several reps in, too. Especially, like, I think a good example of it is what Justin and Jordan do when they go to the mountains is, like,
anything they see, they shoot?
They shoot, like, every doe they see. And it's like, yeah, you might have shot 2 or 3 or 4 before you see a buck, but you're going to be ready.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Oh, he's hooked on to one.
Is he?
Yeah. Oh,
should
low river trout.
Should we stop and reel his fish in? That's pretty nice.
Off his line.
Yeah, we could.
Perfect.
I got the jet boil. We could boil a trout right now. No, but I think that's good. Like, that's something I want to do too. Even if it's like super hot, at the lease in the beginning part of the season, it's a great time to go and just slaughter some does.
So you're going to try to decoy on your lease this year? Like, how
Yeah.
much you going to hunt your lease? How much you going to try to go down to where we hunt?
I don't know how much I'll get to. Dude, my September's nuts.
Yeah.
I don't know how much I'll get out in October and stuff, but when I do get out, I really would like to do it in that mid to late October and then November timeframe, because I really want to get some more ground interactions with whitetails. I don't know. The more that I, like in Nebraska, when I had that doe at 20 yards and the buck was sitting back at 55, just waiting and just realizing if you stay still, they really can't pick you out if you have backdrop and maybe a little bit of foreground. I just want more of those on-the-ground interactions with animals because it's just fun. It's just fun having a bow in your hand and just shooting them on the ground. And I totally get what KC's saying from The Element. Like, that dude is a running gun and shooting them on the ground kind of guy. And I get it. It's fun. After doing the elk hunting and stuff and then going to Nebraska and doing pronghorn, dude, all I've done is hunt on the ground this year.
Yeah, but it's not a little part of you like, I could sit and,
I could on
out
public
on
for
the
sure.
platform right now.
I could on public in the pines, no doubt. But at the lease, I have a really strong
As
desire
you
to
should,
rattle in
because
a
your
buck.
lease is primo. So like, why not try something different? Why not try to spark interest? Because in all honesty, if you lose that lease, the likelihood of you being able to like decoy one in as effectively is probably
somewhere else.
Pretty slim.
Yeah, that's really what I want to do this year. I haven't decided though if I want to try that flambeau that I shot that Texas buck over last year, or I want to try a like on the bow decoy.
I think the flambeau would be the better option, just because
just
because your lease is bedding, and it's like, what are you going to do? Stalk through the bedding?
Well, mainly just also too with the filming aspect, I'd like to have them focused on something that's on my bow. But
plus, like, if you were out maybe like in Kansas or something, and you tried to and if you had your primo lease there, and you're trying to sit on the edge of a bean field or something like that, and then see one across and like try to stalk in with that.
Yeah,
that's different than sitting right next to 9-foot tall grass, and it's like, okay, I can only see 45 yards. He just came out. I'm gonna try to get to 20.
Yeah. Also, I don't have to be super mobile on the private that I hunt with deer, so I can carry that heavy sucker and set it up and maybe move it another 200 yards and do a calling sequence. But I really want to rattle in a buck on the ground this year. I don't really care how big, as long as it's mature. That's what I want to do, and I'm really excited to try that. I feel like and a lot of hunting, and what kind of hunting becomes to a lot of people, is just doing the same thing over and over again, and that makes me not want to do things very often. When you're just like, okay, gonna go sit in the same stand over the same look and maybe over the same feeder or over the same field. I just like the difference. That's what's fun about public land, is just getting to jump around and see something different every single sit.
It makes your mind work, and not like, okay, now my hands are cuffed here.
Right. Yeah, you're not as worried about playing Clash Royale on your phone.
Oh, I still am.
Well, when I go to private, it's like, all right, well, let's just wait till they come in, and your mind's on them. You're not thinking about many things, and for me, that's what makes it fun. It's just the difference and the different challenges in different spots. And that might not make it fun for other people, but it's what makes it fun for me.
Again, you got to have motivation behind it too. Like, you got to know what's out there, know where you're hunting, know the potential of where you're hunting to make it worth it for that. Because there are times where you're like, I'm getting my butt kicked in the dirt right now, and it's like, what am I even? I'm wasting time out here, man. And then you do that, and you're just like, I would love a layup with a corn feeder and 15 yards. Like, I would pay anything for that right now.
It's nice to have options.
It's situational. It is nice to have options.
Yeah, it's going to be a good season. I think it's going to be awesome. It's starting out with a bang, even though Nebraska took our number. But the thing is about Nebraska, it's not.
I'm going to call back.
It's not a limited
season. That's all I'm
season.
saying.
I'm hitting redial. It's like when a telemarketer leaves you a voicemail and they fool you just enough. You're calling them back.
Little quick tip, all you got to do is say hello, act interested for like 30 seconds, be like, yeah, hold on, give me 1 second. Then you just put it on mute and you leave it there until they hang up.
So my grandpa, I found out on his home phone, he changed his voicemail because he gets so many telemarketers. And when he calls and it beeps, he goes, hello? And they're like, hey, is this Victor? He goes, uh-huh. And he just like keeps like affirming them, and for like 10 seconds, then he goes, yeah, you're going to have to leave a message. And I'm like, that is that's great.
awesome.
Oh, we're out here in New Mexico. We got a couple trumpers.
Nice.
One of the few in the state, I guess.
Hello, brother.
Our hunting guides and that guy.
Yeah, that ain't no joke. How is New Mexico blue?
I don't
How
know.
is it? Like, everything we've seen, it's like there's nothingness, wilderness, cattle ranchers and all that stuff. And it's
Who's
like,
voting?
how's it blue? I mean, granted, we haven't went into any big cities yet, which
I don't know.
by the sounds of it, if we see what's out here, and then if we know that these are red, and then the big cities must be blue, then I don't want to go in those cities anyways.
No, this is well. Jeff Stringer made fun of me the other day because I posted a Nebraska picture of like the rolling hills, and I said God's country, and he messaged back and said God's country has mountains.
And he's right.
And he's not wrong. After being out here, he is not wrong. I think he's from Utah, so
Yeah.
he's biased, but
Poor guy.
Poor guy. I mean, you couldn't. If I lived somewhere like this, it might take away the beauty. It's something that shocks you when you start driving through it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Well, hopefully there's a lot more to come. And again, we're going to try. I think we're going to try to get these videos out. So we just released your Texas buck.
Yep.
A few days ago.
Decoy buck.
It's a good video. Go check that out. I think we're going to release our public land film from last November.
Rutcation.
Yeah, sometime probably this upcoming week. So this is September 13th right now. And it's a Friday, so probably sometime next week, Monday or Tuesday, hopefully. That's going to come out, and the plan is to get the antelope film from this year edited and put out, and then the Nebraska deer edited and put out, and it like within the next month probably.
Like to, yeah. We'll see where season progresses.
Right, yeah. I mean, as you can tell, it's pretty action-packed, but we're going to try to do it on a, I guess, hunt-to-hunt basis and just try to put them out whether we're successful or not. Some people might not like that because it's like, oh, you made me watch this whole video. You don't even get a shot opportunity. Well, that's hunting, and we put out hunting content, so take it or leave it.
Not killing content.
Is what we're saying. But we're going to be doing it to our best effort, production quality. We've hired some cameramen to follow us around on a lot of these hunts, and I think it's paid off from the production side of it, from the perspective side of it, storytelling side.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are trying our best. Obviously, it's hunting. There's going to be flaws. There's going to be some times where stuff happens in a different spot where you don't get the shot on film, but the story's there. And, we're still going to put that out because, hey, that's what we experienced. That's what we want to put out, and so we're going to put it out. And hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, and we got 3 other whitetail hunts from last season, too, that we're going to put out on top of the rutcation and that Texas buck. So we're really ramping up on the video side and trying to keep
Well, that's where
everything
we're
right.
lacking on the hunts.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah, it's hard to film hunts. It's hard to self-film hunts. And, we're obviously trying. I hope that people can see that we're investing at least into getting different perspectives and, camera people to help. And it'll just make everything a little bit better.
And even if it ain't
Perfect.
it's the best we can do for this current situation. And we're only going to try to get better. So take that as you will and just know that beforehand.
Yeah, so for the people that have been enjoying the podcast, I know there's a lot of you guys that listen and you haven't left a rating and review. Well, hope that you see that we're out here grinding and continuing to do the podcast. We're doing it in the freaking truck, driving around places all the time.
It's fine in this situation because we got 9 hours and 35 minutes left until I get home.
Yeah, but please leave us a rating and review if you enjoy the podcast.
It helps.
And
a sub would be nice.
Yep, a sub on YouTube and a rating and review on the podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I don't know how the heck we went to 4.7 stars on Spotify. There must have been an angry Karen in there, and you can't write a review. You can just only leave a rating on Spotify. But we appreciate it. It helps us reach more hunters. We've had some really nice reviews recently that will kind of make you blush, and we appreciate you guys for leaving those. But we could always use some more. So it helps us reach more people and kind of gets the message out and ultimately use this Trojan horse to continue to spread the good news. And we appreciate you guys listening and watching. And I think with that, we'll catch you guys in the next one.